There we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a little bonus live stream today. So today's another roundtable, and as always when we do these roundtables, I won't be able to reply as much as I usually do to you guys in chat, obviously because we have a whole host of people here. We're going to be talking back and forth, and we will of course be discussing all the announcement that came out both in the live stream Frontier did and also in the dev diary posted here on YouTube. So plenty of stuff to talk about. People will be introduced here in a second, and I will also have icons running on the stream. So that should yeah, that should be fine. I'm just thinking here because there has been some issues that we need to do some audio recordings as well. There's been some issues getting the audio recordings to work that we need for playback later. So during the live stream today, there will not be any game sound, and I will probably also disable notifications, just so that we can get clean audio that we can rip later. It's just an emergency thing we're doing here. So no game sound, but all I will be doing here in the background while we're discussing is I'll be running around and I will be collecting some engineering materials that I need. I'll be running some high grades in. So nothing terribly exciting, but it's easy enough that I can do it while still paying attention. Sound is too low. Okay, hold on a second. Is this in frame? A little bit. Let me just... okay, I hope this is better. Move my microphone a little closer. Is that any better? I hope it's better now. Otherwise, let me know. Also, if audio levels for the other guys is off, then let me know in chat. And okay, I can't really turn it up much more than I have now without beginning to peak, and I'm gonna ruin it for everybody else. Okay, if the audio levels for the other guys is a little low, I'm probably gonna raise them a little bit because I'm allowing those to my. Okay, point being, I hope audio levels for everyone is fine. Otherwise, let me know in chat, and I'll try to get that adjusted here as soon as we go. And I guess I'm just going to jump back on Discord, and we're going to jump in game, and I'm just going to disable all the other sounds that was otherwise going to be running. So enjoy the live stream.
I felt like while the
now. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Says
just
hello. You're here.
Hello.
Oh, go on.
No, just saying that you guys are live. Just you know.
Yeah, we're live too.
We're live.
So this is the part where we say really embarrassing stuff and secrets as shills do. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still waiting on Plater. Other than that, we're good to rock. So we're just going to chill for a minute while we wait for him to appear.
Stream, can you just confirm that you can hear Rini as well if Rini says something right now?
Say something right now.
There we go.
Perfect.
Good. Yes, you can. Good.
Excellent.
So
I've invariably got Rini muted.
oh,
Yeah, you normally
I know.
server mutes
Yeah.
me. It's polite properly.
That has happened before, actually.
I also
Yeah.
have people in my chat confirming that we can hear Rini.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good.
Nice to see your chat too.
Rini,
Hello, everyone else's chat.
Rini, I'm going to tell you something I say really every time we talk.
Yes.
Leave that man. Come away with me. I'll treat you better.
Oh, what a time to drop in, eh? What a time to drop in.
I just thought I was having a moment.
And Plater's here. Okay, the gang's all here, so we can go ahead and put aside what was going on and start with what we're doing.
The respect is the reason I keep coming back time and time again.
Good stuff.
Respect, but I don't think you know what that word means.
No, I don't.
That's how you talk to me anyway.
No, it isn't, you awful little man.
All right, I got to separate you two. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Super Friendos Odyssey Dev Diary #1 stream. Today we have Commander Alec Turner. Say hello, Alec.
Hello, Alec.
Alec is of the Buckyball Racers and of the Alec Turner's Best of the Forum fame. We have the Burrs. Rini, you can go ahead and say if Burr's allowed to talk.
There is definitely allowed to talk. Hello,
Ahoy!
everyone.
We have the incomparable Commander Plater.
Hello.
We have Down to Earth Astronomy.
Thanks for
Say
having
hi.
me. Hi.
Astro, yes, yes. We've got myself, and we have the one, the only Commander Wotherspoon of Galnet News Digest Radio.
That will be me. Good afternoon, everybody.
His voice sounds like Rini and Wotherspoon have like these very, smooth radio delivery voices, and then there's us lot.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Right. Bert's got a
brilliant, doesn't it? Yeah.
Bert's got a good sexy voice when he wants to turn it on for Witch-based news, but he doesn't bring it here. Here he's like, oi, oi.
What he said, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. He sounds identical to a guy that runs a YouTube channel called Crime Bodge, and it's basically a YouTube channel essentially citing the UK police force and any mispractices they have. And knowing Burr the way that I know Burr, the chances are he's had plenty of run-ins in with the law, and it's just him. It's just this is his side project, you know.
Knowing Plater as I know Plater, I can confirm one thing: the man lies a lot. He lies an awful lot.
All right, if you know, those ladies and gentlemen listening at home will notice that Burr did not deny that he runs Crime Botch. All right,
Sharp Tooth in my stream is now confirming what Plater's saying. Anyway, sorry, move on.
All right, today is Saturday, August 22nd, 2020, 3306. For those of you who are living in the game, it is 2:00 p.m. UTC, 3:00 p.m. British Summer Time, yada, yada, yada. So we've got the intros out of the way. What's this about? This is about this week. Frontier graced us with two things. First, a dev diary that was like 4.5 minutes long that was very, very cool and interesting and has some stuff to talk about. And also a stream, which they gave a title to, but I'm just going to call it a stream that was an hour long. And we can talk about all of that stuff. So let's just jump right in on the agenda. So let's start with, what are your overall thoughts on the presentation of the Dev Diary, quote, The Road to Odyssey, Part 1, One Giant Leap, 4.5 minutes long. Let's start with the birds. Yeah, well, I mean, touching a little on it, but mostly on the presentation, starting with the birds.
Do you want to go? Me? Okay. Yeah, I think in my initial sort of summary of it, I described it as a solid start. But it was, I think in the news yesterday, I said it was okay. It was only okay. I think the visuals and everything that we were shown were absolutely beautiful, particularly the sort of orbital shots. For the most part, however, I did feel that those orbital shots in particular was not really something we hadn't seen before. If you remember back to the launch trailer, sorry, not the launch trailer, the teaser trailer from a couple of months back, I kind of felt like I'd already seen that, and I needed to see more. And we did see some lower down stuff, which was great. The shots of commanders standing on planets next to SRVs and next to Cobras. There wasn't enough going on there for me to say that's gameplay, and they were literally just, I mean, that was literally just like models standing in an environment. To me, it felt, I suppose I wanted to see gameplay, and it felt to me much more like a planetary tech demo, I guess. I was quite encouraged to see that there were some more details coming out about, I figured there'd be plant life on atmospheric worlds that we'd be able to interact with. I'm keen to see more of that. And the hand scanner frightens the life out of me. I think it looks like a Dyson. A Dyson from No Man's Sky.
Space vacuum.
So yeah, I suppose overall I was at the end of it. The first time I saw it, I actually watched it up here alone because Ree was asleep. I actually watched it up here alone, and my gut reaction was, yeah, I was okay. You had a very different reaction, didn't you? Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I have to say, now when I first watched it, I was literally squealing. I was really excited about what I saw. I thought it looked amazing.
Yes.
Ultimately, as you all know, I'm primarily in this game to film, to take photographs, do stellar photography, and my passion in the game is exploring. So for everything that I saw, I literally cannot wait to get into Odyssey. After the second and third time of watching, I've just got a few doubts creeping in because, like, as Burrs just said, I'm not sure how much of that is actually gameplay. When we went off and checked the planets like for like, what you saw in the HUD didn't match up, and the more the gravity's off and stuff, and the more I've sort of looked at it, looking at the commander outside the SRV on what looked like a non-atmospheric planet, really, really exciting. But then you start sort of questioning it a little bit more and going, well, that could just be set up. It's a shot that's set up. So am I going to see that? The low-level flying, am I actually going to see that? So I've got really mixed. I'm not very good with subtle. I like to see things right. This is what I'm going to get. This is kind of what I am seeing. What I'm getting shown is what I'm going to see, to which I am really excited about. But I'm just a bit dubious on the little discrepancies between what you see and what's in game and what's in engine as to kind of what I'm left with. But from an explorer's point of view, I did really, really like it. But I'm left with so many more questions now.
Okay. And Plater, your thoughts?
For me, I saw it, watched it. I watched it twice, immediately, and for me, I really thought. I looked at it when they've created a nice little awe-inspiring piece of cinematography there. This 4-minute documentary type thing where I'm like, actually, this gets me pretty hyped for it. Like probably more than I should be, and more than I know better than as well. Where I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, the planets look incredible. Flybys for it. It's in engine, so we're going to have something that looks a bit like that. May not be 100% like it. It might be more polished. This is always the hope. And then you've got some of that talk about the structures we're going to have not structures, the word I'm looking for is features on planet surfaces based on the type they are. And I love that. I think that's great. And I'm like, yes, cool. Keep talking. And then there's some words that I had to go and Google because I didn't know what they were. And I was like, okay, brilliant. This is exciting. This is detail, levels of detail, which is really good. And there's a couple of key phrases in there which got me excited. Was they said they're gonna increase the level of detail that you can see at long range and close up. So to me, that feels like a real kind of 360-degree approach to upping the level of detail for it. Because you look at the ground at the moment, you're never going to be only 6 inches away from it, but we are going to be when we're on foot, and I think that's going to be pretty mental for us to be able to have a look at that.
You clearly drive your SRV a lot nicer than I do. Then I also really happy to see that with regards to the first-person gameplay, because I think a lot of us were just thinking that it would just be first-person shooting, running around, being like, pew pew, look, I'm in Call of Duty. But then even just giving the idea of we're having something extra that I wasn't necessarily expecting. I didn't even think about scanning plants on planets. Well, I mean, we already kind of do it in the SRV. I didn't even think it'd be something that we would do at foot level. Didn't even come into my mind that there'd be something extra in there. There was this concern for me of like, okay, you land on a planet, if there's nothing to shoot, what are you going to do? Well, now there's going to be something for you to do. There's something to scan. And they did talk about it being skill-based in there as well. So again, that encourages me that there's going to be some well-thought-out gameplay in there. I do always have the concerns that, it's overhype and underdeliver. And that's a very real possibility for any new game update or any game delivery. And I have to pinch myself and remind myself that hype is just hype until you've got the product in front of you and you're playing it. Don't get overexcited. So that's kind of where I am. But all in all, I thought it was a very well put together piece, short, and a nice, gentle beginning of the hype build, assuming it wraps up.
Absolutely.
That's what I've got to say.
Beautiful. Astro.
So they've obviously put a lot of thought into to this. Like every word in there, I think, is very well selected. I mean, for what they're trying to do. But I think my problem with it is, I think they're trying to do something. Well, that's not a problem. They're just trying to do something different with the dev diaries than I thought. Because originally, back when they did the dev diaries, like the first year of Elite, they were a lot more technical, a lot more like, now we're going to dive into this little nitty-gritty detail and we're going to explore that in an absurd amount of detail. where what they did here was much more of a, what I would call a promotional video. I mean, they start out talking about what is Elite and the history of Elite. And I mean, that clearly shows me that this is not just intended for veteran players, but it's also intended as a promotion piece to drag in new people. And I would actually have loved to see them go into more details. Don't get me wrong, I like these videos, like these short, like just get some information out videos, but I was hoping the Dev Diaries would be a lot more detailed. I mean, if they did a whole video on, hey, we're gonna add plants, you can scan them, and now we're gonna talk about what went into building these plants. We had some people who know stuff about alien plants, I guess, don't know, like, what would plants look like in different gravities or in different atmospheric conditions or something like that. If they went into details with that, that would have made me a lot more hyped, getting that like reality aspect of it. Then, like, yeah, some basic information that could have been summed up in a forum post.
It was a little light on detail, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would have liked to see some more detail come out. And I mean, it's just because, well, I am excited for Odyssey, and I like what I saw. I just want more of it.
Yeah.
All right. And Alec.
Yeah, I think Astro's kind of hit it on the head a bit there. Really, for me, the whole day, starting with that video, was a bit of a fail in expectation management. It was not what I expected at all. You know, Dev Diary, as Astro said, I know these aren't the Kickstarter days anymore, and those things have changed a bit, but I was expecting the hour in the evening to be sitting down with the developer, and the developer talking and showing us some of the stuff they were doing, you know, maybe talking about walking animations, or maybe talking about the science of blue skies and light reflection. I expected really technical stuff with the developer that had written it, talking about what they did. So to drop a sort of 4.5-minute video, marketing video in the afternoon, not marketing, advertising, whatever you will, it kind of threw me a bit. It wasn't what I expected at all. That said, there was some great stuff in the video. It looked very slick. I personally really liked the talk about the Neil Armstrong moment and that sort of stuff, because I don't know if people remember this, but when we first got Horizons, that moment when you first dismiss your ship, and you've been with your ship the whole time through this game, and to suddenly dismiss your ship and see it fly off and then vanish in a puff of hyperspace, that's quite a moment. I remember people talking about that a lot on the forums. You know, or on Facebook, you see people going, "I've just dismissed my ship for the first time," sent shivers down my spine. You know.
Yeah, you have that.
So
I hope it comes back.
Yeah. So hearing them talking about the Armstrong moment and about the audio and about the breathing in the helmet and stuff actually gave me quite a lot of hope, because this is the stuff that Frontier do well, and I think that will be good.
Awesome.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it more, I guess. But it was kind of light on detail, really.
Okay. Wotherspoon, your thoughts?
It was light on detail, but it was real in the sense that it was generated in engine. There wasn't a cinematic trailer. There wasn't any artificial gameplay. I'm fairly sure that what you see there is what you're going to get, which is fabulous. It was specifically aimed at exploration, and no doubt later on today we'll discuss some of the other professions and careers that they'll presumably come on to discuss in future episodes. It was concise. It was very, very short. It didn't show us an awful lot. It was more of a taster, I suppose. It introduced us. I think it's the start of a controlled release of information that's going to come over a number of weeks and months, and gradually build up the hype. It's a slow starting point, but that's not a bad thing, because you don't want to sort of come too quickly out of the starting gates and then end up with nothing to say later on. So I'm pretty impressed by the 4.5-minute video. Yes.
Yes, I share your opinion with regard to that, Wotherspoon. So for me, I watched the video. I'll be honest, I had a little bit of Alec Turner's original sort of feeling on the matter of like, oh, I was thinking we were going to get an hour-long stream as the Dev Diary, But then I went back and looked, and I pulled out like a dev diary video where they were talking about combat. This was back from the Kickstarter days. And in that dev diary, that was a 4-minute long video talking about the combat stuff. And I was like, okay, this was not a situation of Frontier setting the expectations wrong. This was me maybe having a wrong expectation. So then I went back and I looked at it with those eyes. And for me, I strongly agree with what Burgess said about this was very much about planetary tech. I think so. They started off with these concepts and ideas of like, what is elite and the Neil Armstrong moment and all of these things. And that was the marketing section of the event. When you get down to the brass tacks of like, what is the meat on this bone? The video should have been called planetary tech. And if it was called planetary tech and they showed you all of this stuff on the different types of planetary features that will be existing on the 2 types of planets that we're getting, which is the rocky, barren, Mars-like worlds and the icy body worlds of both of which have tenuous atmosphere. I feel like there's a lot actually there. There's really, really good stuff there.
One thing I must add, Mars, as it is today, people absolutely lynched me in my comment section for
yes
for not saying
When I say Mars-like world, I mean Mars for us, not Mars in the game terms. Because in the game terms, Mars is terraformed with oceans and all kinds of crap.
Exactly.
That's not, yes, Mars-like world means Mars as in our Mars, that if you go outside right now and look at a telescope, you know, that. Yeah. So anyways,
sorry, I just wanted to say quick thing to mention, sorry, Kai.
Sure.
It's not just rocky and it's not just ice, because one of the planets that was featured in the trailer is also high metal content.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yes.
So there are not just the 2 planetary types. There's going to be more.
I apologize. I tend to group the high metal and the Rockies together in the sense of when I'm not talking about them in the sense of how Elite classifies them on the scanner. I'm talking about when you look out, you see rocks, you see ice, you see water, or you see Earth-like is kind of what I meant. Or gas giant. Gas giant, yeah. But yes, okay. So that was that. I thought that the 4.5 minute long video was great, and it you had to sort of dig past some of the marketing speak to get to for us, for people on our level of we're looking at it a little more on the complex side. What was the point of this? The point of this was planetary tech, and they sold the hell out of that for me. So now let's get to the next point, which is your overall thoughts on the presentation of the stream later that day that they called a discovery scanner.
Can I add a quick thing?
Sure.
I don't know if any of you have noticed it, but in the teaser trailer, they refer to the footage as in-engine footage, but now they're referring to it as pre-alpha development footage. Yeah. I don't know if that's significant at all. I just noticed they renamed it. Apart from like the first 1 second of the video, that is still. I don't know if that has any. I don't even know what the difference between in-engine and in development or pre-alpha development footage. Don't even know what development footage is.
I think it's quite significant that the word gameplay wasn't there.
Yeah,
I think that's.
Go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say. The word gameplay wasn't there. I just wanted to agree with what Wotherspoon said as well, in that I think it was a slow start, a deliberately slow start, and a soft introduction. I don't, you know, I obviously haven't got the faintest idea what their longer term plan is. And again, you're looking at the difference between expectations and what they've actually delivered in that dev diary. And it was a slow start, and I wanted it to be stronger. I wanted it to be a bit noisier, and for everybody to get to the end. It needed it kind of felt like it needed a money shot at the end, and it was just kind of, it didn't really build to a crescendo. It just kind of got to the end and went ta-da.
Yes, a money shot or a mystery, some unexplained shot that was something we just what on earth is that?
Creeping in from the corner.
I think that's all to come. I think what we started was what we saw was, like you said, the slow start with the build up, and there's more coming. But to the point on the next point that we're on now, which is the stream, Plater, your thoughts?
Okay, so as everyone knows, I try to be super balanced about stuff. That ain't gonna happen here.
Okay.
Now,
Here it comes.
is
Gloves
that
are off.
surprise? Now, first of all, it was a 1 hour stream about a 4-minute video. Number one. Now, we're ambitious content creators, but none of us would try to do something so challenging yet so brave at the same time. You know, do an hour-long video about a 4-minute video.
You obviously have not listened to my show.
I mean, a live stream with conversation is
that what we're doing now?
I mean, you could say that's what we're doing,
Damn,
but
gotcha.
technically we're also discussing the live stream, which was an hour. So I actually got an hour and 5 minutes that we're turning into a 2-hour show because there's so many of them, so many of us. Sorry. So because of that, yeah, it's a thing. Now, I thought it was a bit overkill for not enough new information. It was lovely to hear from David Braben. I feel like we haven't heard from him talk about the game and the state of the game in modern times for a very, very long time. So it was good they wheeled them out, but it was very much like they wheeled them out, and it was a shame that it was obviously a pre-recorded segment within the live stream as well. Not to mention the fact they constantly showed the dev diary during it, and I understand the need to build hype around it, but the chances are there wasn't a single person watching the stream on the Elite Dangerous channel, not the Frontier Developments channel, for one of the first times in a long time that we that wouldn't have watched it. I don't think was anyone here that didn't watch it as soon as it came out. Like,
Nope.
did anyone wait until
Totally.
the stream? I just don't think it would have happened. It's very, very difficult when I'm like, oh, it's a little bit of a maybe. Oh, I live right next to a multi-story car park.
Oh, okay.
In the centre of a town.
Oh, it was tired. Okay, I thought you were killing a cow. Sorry, carry on.
No.
That
You're
one's
angry,
live.
aren't you? Christ.
But yeah, I feel like that was something that was really kind of overplayed out, was the constantly showing it. And we're all there for new stuff. Like, let's face it, whenever you tune into a Frontier live stream, what everyone is waiting for is that little snippet of information that we get that we didn't know before. And we did get one, which was to talk about the new rank for xenobiology that would be coming in, where you can scan stuff and sell the data and take that genetic data and sell it at a planetary or space station. But I felt it was light on content, and I feel like what it really needed was Stephen to have an additional co-host as well. I think it's a very difficult task to field a chat with nearly 2,000 people in, to ask for questions. You're not going to see them, like, if you're on your own, without even just having people in chat and moderating is probably not quite enough. And normally with these types of streams to this level and this big, they're in the studio, they've got 4 people on the sofa, they've got 3 people behind the scenes, plus they've got all those transitions planned up and everything's ready, and it's a really, really professional kind of setup. But they're doing it from home. I understand there are challenges from streaming at home if you're used to being in a studio setup, or if you've got COVID has had a massive effect on everyone's life at this point. And obviously it's affecting their working and the way they're able to deliver content. And they've acknowledged it as well. So I'm not going to beat them up too hard over it. I just think Stephen could have done with an additional kind of backup on the stream to bounce a little bit of conversation off of, and conduct the interviews in a smoother kind of way, and more what they're used to. I think that would have been nice. But we didn't get enough new information to justify a stream that long, I think. Honestly, that's my sum up point.
Okay. Alec.
Yeah, well, again, for me, it's what I said about the video. It was just not what I expected. Discovery Scanner. Yeah, I've said it. If you go and look on their YouTube channel and you go to the Discovery Scanner playlist and you look at the extraordinary presentations that deserve that title, a presentation on the dynamics of the movement of the Thargoid swarm, a presentation by Kay Ross about planetary tech, that extraordinary presentation about audio. That was not a Discovery Scanner. They never should have labeled it Discovery Scanner.
No.
Completely agree.
Sets an expectation, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. So I did kind of spend most of the time reeling from that. I had to watch it back because I realized I hadn't paid attention. I just spent an hour seething.
It just occurs to me that we know now what that tire squealing noise was. That was Mrs. Plater making a getaway with the swag bag because her still husband just nixed the whole thing. All right.
But
all right.
Yeah. So what else to say? Yeah, I agree. You know, the whole Stephen fronting it, bless him. You know, by himself, he's neither qualified because he's not a developer.
Yep.
Nor probably allowed to barely say anything. And what an awful position to be in. You know, especially by yourself, to not be able to either have the knowledge to answer the questions or know if, you know, the authority to answer them. I really felt for the poor guy.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised. This is Frontier's first big, you know, we've had an announcement of this live stream. This was a big one for them. This is their first big Odyssey sort of live stream launch thing. I'm really surprised that at least Arthur wasn't there or Bruce is there. I don't know why they just wheeled out poor Stephen by himself. Oh well.
Okay, Astro.
I think it was, yeah, again, was a little light on content, as I said before. I really want to see some nitty-gritty details. This could have been an opportunity, but it was nice to see David Braben again. I have him talking about Elite. I believe it's been quite a while since there's been anything out official with him. Like, are we talking years now?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So really nice to see. And yeah, as it's been mentioned, there was some small details in there that that added to what we already knew on top of the YouTube video, but it was a stretched out version of it. But I think what is like for this whole, both this live stream now and the other one, is there has, for like the last year or year and a half, there has been some critique that people think Frontier is abandoning Elite, and I think this shows that I mean, they've put a lot of effort into this, and I think it's pretty clear that they're not trying to abandon Elite. Yeah, again, more nitty-gritty details. I wouldn't mind if it was 1 hour live stream talking about plants.
All in all, I think the Denmark swag bag is safe. All right. So next up, we've got the Burrs.
Okay.
Yeah, quickly, I suppose. Yeah, pretty much everything that you've said. I was actually really, very surprised to see Stephen on his own, even though I know they get slammed for their technical issues, which is perhaps why they did it. But out of all the streams they've done, to have one person on their own, this perhaps was, really surprised to see that one. Was the one where they put Stephen up on his own. Everything you said about the dev diary, I just was surprised. It was nice that they it wasn't Discovery Scanner. They slipped in about the exobiologist, but then I didn't understand why that hadn't got on the dev diary, and then they could have discussed that more, because that's something that really interests me. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's going to appeal to a lot of explorers, make you want to go back and check all places you've seen before. And it was kind of slipped in mid-sentence, and I thought we had an hour where 15 minutes was taken up replaying the dev diary, and the one bit of news that came out, really, for me, the only bit of news that came out of it was kind of slipped in mid-sentence. It was like, whoa, hang on a minute, hang on. I almost missed it. And yet I would have thought that was quite a big thing and could have been discussed further in more depth. I was kind of a bit surprised at how they, I don't know, it felt like, are you lot listening? Here's a bit of info, quick, otherwise you miss it. And I didn't like the way that was done, and I would have liked that in the dev diary and more detail, or been able to talk about it more as part of the Discovery Scanner. If they're going to do this format where it's focused on the one thing, the dev diary is showing exploration side, we're not showing the FPS side. I get that. I quite like it segmented up, that this dev diary is going to be about exploration. Perhaps we'll have one on combat. They're going to keep them very compartmentalized. I quite like that. But then the plant bit should have been in there as well, and then we could have asked more about that. And the questions thing, that for me, that was my biggest niggle. And that Frontier themselves put into chat, if you've got any questions, put them in. And they needed to manage that better. And I think going forward, if they were doing it to gather information a bit like a straw poll of what is the biggest question in the community at the minute, because obviously Ship Interiors was coming through loud and clear. I get that. If you want to do a kind of straw poll, what is bothering people, they are saying they're listening, and I do believe they are listening. I think they are very much listening to the community, especially with the new community management team that we've got now. But if they were doing that, that's fine. Just say that's what you're doing. Don't say, put your questions in and we'll try and answer them when you obviously didn't have any intention to answer them. Just be a little bit, I think, clearer. I think this managing expectations and the question bit really bugged me a bit. And I think hopefully, really hoping that moving forward, they'll listen to the sort of constructive criticism that has been given back, and maybe going forward they'll do better on these issues that have left people a little bit deflated.
Well, I think that covers everything from the Burr, so we're going to skip Burr and move right on to Burr.
I'd basically echo what everybody else said. I really felt for Stephen, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know personally I struggle just with the Breakfast Club on Thursdays, and that's only 60, 70 people or whatever he had. Was it upwards of 2,000 people? Was that what it was in? See, that must just be. I know there were people sort of modding behind the scenes, but like to try and keep everything going like that, I really did feel for him. And I think that whatever the technical hurdles might have been, I think they did need 2 people backing each other up. The way the exobiology announcement was almost not announced, really. It was sort of casually dropped in. We literally nearly missed it. I kind of looked at each other and went, did they just say there's another elite rank? I couldn't hear exactly what was being said in the stream at that point over Alex's anger.
Actually, chipping in for a minute, I've just realised I did miss it. Who was it I was speaking to?
Oh, there you go.
No,
I was
Alex
speaking
actually missed it.
There you
I was
go.
speaking to you guys. I think it was you guys on your breakfast stream on Thursday, and somebody mentioned that, I was saying, oh, what did they tell us? They didn't give us anything. And somebody said, well, there's the new rank.
You'd
And I
missed
was
it.
like, yeah, I'd literally
go.
missed it. Was that?
There you go.
I was still
It
feeding,
needed
to be honest. I was too busy feeding, but...
It was kind of dropped in as a part of the conversation, and it kind of needed a everybody stop moment.
Yeah,
slide on screen. There's going to be a new elite ranking. Yeah.
Technically, I hate to be that guy, but there's going to be more than one new elite ranking based on what was said.
Sure,
but
Yeah.
So it felt like that was almost sort of dropped in, like, here we go, we're hearing you, we're going to give you, there's a bit of new information, everybody's clamouring for a lot of new information, we're just going to slip this bit in, when in actual fact I thought it kind of deserved more in its own right. You didn't need to slip that in as a token bit of news for the community. That should have stood out in its own right as a new bit of news, if you know what I'm saying, rather than just slipped into a conversation as, I don't know, almost like a sneak peek. It just felt a bit odd.
It needed a fanfare rather than a kazoo.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Oh, that's brilliant. I was going to say Braben's appearance as well felt a bit perfunctory and just sort of like, oh, let's roll Braben out.
It was a shame it was pre-recorded.
They could have given him a bit more meat and potatoes to chew on as well. I don't know. It just felt...
Also, it was I always find them a little bit toe curling. It was because it was pre-recorded, which fine for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But don't try and do it like a sort of proper Q&A.
It was clearly scripted, wasn't it? Which is
too scripted.
Can I just add on the end as well? Having seen the dev diary during the day and thought, okay, that's a solid start. That's great. I'm really excited to see what the live stream's going to deliver. I figured there'd be a lot more meat to it. It was, I know I'm echoing what everyone else has said, but it basically went over the dev diary, and the dev diary was light on details. So it kind of like I kind of got to the live stream and thought, right, here we go, and then it was like and then nothing, and it was just sort of I left it really deflated. Anyway, sorry, go on.
All right, so Wotherspoon, what were your thoughts on what I guess they're calling it, Discovery Scanner?
What can I say? I mean, we're saying that an hour spent analysing a 4.5-minute video was too long, and here we are spending 2 hours analysing the hour-long video.
I don't see the problem with that.
Right, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
you know what? We should do a get together next week and then discuss this live stream next week and then make it 4 hours.
We could do that. Yes, turtles all the way down.
Can you see that?
It's kind of content. Nice.
It's just escalating amount of content.
But it was disappointing. Having seen the 4.5-minute discovery, the 4.5-minute dev diary at lunchtime. Then sort of discovering that really there was nothing new. I was spending an hour sort of doing this, watching this stream that was trailed weeks in advance, or at least sort of we were told it was coming weeks in advance, and then it was basically there was 1 or 2 new facts I mean, it was great seeing Kay Ross. It was great seeing David Braben. It would have been nice if David had been asked some more, perhaps incisive questions. It was great seeing the other developer whose name I forget, I'm afraid.
Darren Halil.
Thank you very much. That was all good, but it was a bit bitty. There wasn't a lot of information coming out of it. You could have probably condensed it into about 20 minutes, and it would have had all the information that we needed.
Well, you would have lost the 18 other times that they replayed the video.
Yes, I was disappointed they didn't show it more often.
Jesus Christ.
How did you say that with a straight face? Come on.
All right.
One more time.
So now we've come to my thoughts on the, let's say, Discovery Scanner. And for this, we're going to need that. All right. God, this was disappointing. This was the low point for me. Sorry, I guess my swag bag is in jeopardy, but this is just the truth. Number one, don't call it a Discovery Scanner, because it wasn't. You guys have put on phenomenal pieces of information, as someone pointed out earlier, that were called, I think it was Alec, that was called Discovery Scanner. This does not do service to that name. This should not, don't put this video in that folder. It doesn't go there. You could have called this a, highlight on the dev diary. That would have been completely acceptable and fine. You could have called it a lot of stuff, but calling it what you did was not the right move, and handling it the way it was a little meh. You started off with the Steven intro, which was live. Then you cut to 10 minutes of David Braben, which I'm sorry, I disagree with whoever, I think it was Rini, it said that it was like a little pro forma, or somebody had said it was a little on the pro forma side. I thought David Braben was fantastic. I thought he was, the look on his face when he was so excited, saying there's more people playing Elite now than ever. And we're just getting going. Like we got so much stuff that we're coming up with next. That look on his face was not the my share price has gone up by 3%. It was, that look was like, yeah, we made a cool thing. You want to come play with it? And that I love that man. I love that man, and I love Dr. K. Ross. And if we could have if the 5-minute video was just Dr. K. Ross and Anthony Pierce, and then the hour long was Dr. K talking with David Braben or whatever, I would have been in love. But yeah, we got this instead, and so that was a problem for me. I 100% agree with what Rini said. Of it bothered her, the whole thing, that like literally it was put in the chat multiple times, and Steven said on stream multiple times, chuck your questions in there. We're going to look at your questions. I think that was absolutely the wrong way to go about it from the beginning. I think it was disingenuous because they weren't answering questions. They literally were asked 2 questions. Steven was asked 2 questions that he read out loud the questions. Number one, how many planets are there going to be? Which earlier in the stream, your CEO said trillions. So that's an answer you can give without stepping on any toes. Steven read out loud, how, are there going to be multiple new suits? Earlier in that same stream, Darren Halil said, and you showed an image of 2 of them side by side, and Darren said, yeah, these are all made by Remlock, but the suits all have different names. Each type of suit has its own name. They didn't say just those 2. There may be more, but at the very least, at that point, if you say, I'm going to answer questions, you can answer and say, well, we saw 2 already. I can't really say about any more that are coming, but that, don't say we're going to answer questions over and over and then just don't. Instead, flip the script and say, as the presenter, as the commentator who's there, say, hey, say at the very top of the stream, we're not answering questions this stream. That's not what this is about. We are bringing out new information for you, and we're going to flip the script for this one time. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to say, because if you want to do the straw poll side, you can say, hey, tell us what you think about this, or what your concerns are, or what your questions are, or what features you're excited to see in the next dev diary. And you could have got back, and then as Steven, as the person who's there on the stream trying to juggle hand grenades, you can cherry pick the ones that you want to talk about and say, oh, I see. A Mr. Alec Turner says, you know, that's cool. Are we going to get other SRVs? We're interested to see about that. Oh, I see a Mr. Plater said, what about walking in stations? Interesting. You could do that as opposed to saying, I'm going to answer your questions and then not for an hour. Yeah. Sorry if I sound a little heated on this, because I felt a little heated on it. But now, having said that, that's my criticism side of it. Buried within that, there was lots of really, I feel, really, really good meat on that bones. There were little things that we're going to get to in the next section that were mentioned that it's like, oh, okay, ooh, this got me excited. So it's a question of, you know, your content versus your what do you call that, where you show how you choose to demonstrate it, your demo or whatever. Presentation, there we go. Thank you. And I felt like this had good content. You just had to get past the presentation. I strongly agree with the idea that maybe Stephen should not be alone for these. I think if you're going to pair up a community manager for something like this, like I said, don't call it a discovery scanner, but if you're going to do another highlight on the next dev diary, pair a community manager with some form of developer so that they can together sort of work it, and then have another person, you know, behind the scenes just pulling and monitoring the chat and whatever. And don't say you're going to answer questions, please. But there was some really great stuff in there after you got past the bad presentation. All right, so moving on to, does anybody have anything they want to wrap up on this one before we move to the next?
Yes, I love David Braven's like section of a ship he has in the background. I spent way too much time focusing on that than actually.
I was staring at that through the entire the Amati Global Investments video from a couple months back. He was there talking through with that ship at his little desk, and you could see out the side window, and I was like, oh, that's a lovely little office. But Burr, you had something.
Yeah, all I was going to say was I think a lot of my disappointment on how the events of the whole day played out really was I really, really, really desperately wanted this event, for want of a better expression, to be a massive big deal for them, to be a real kind of bang watermark moment, you know, and it just wasn't. It felt a little bit damp squibby, particularly after the live stream, and I was really disappointed. I wanted it to be better for them, and it wasn't.
I feel like, oddly enough, it's a weird situation where the live stream, I think, lowered people's overall impression of the developer diary, as opposed to, yeah, that's the one last thing I forgot to say on the thing. Please, next time you do one of these highlights, when you take a 4.5 minute long video of something that I feel was like actually precious and interesting and exciting and whatever, and you play it 3 times in 1 hour, you really devalue it. You make it seem like people get bored by what was amazing when they first saw it.
And as somebody else said, we'd all watched it 2 or 3 times already.
Yeah.
Before it even started.
100%. All right. So moving to the next, this was the low point, I think, in the conversation, but I hope we're gonna turn it around here. So for everybody listening, going, hey man, this is these guys seem medium to high salt. Just wait, here we come. All right, so the next question is going to be your thoughts on if you have any that you want to add on the 4 sort of key articles that have been mentioned over and over and over all week on this: the Polygon article, the Twinfinite article, the IGN article, and the GameStar article. I think we're going to keep this one super brief because I don't think they're really warranting a lot of time, but we'll just hit if you want to add anything on them. Watherspoon.
Okay, well, there were a couple of things in the Polygon article, which was a Charlie Hall article, which seemed to add a little bit more information. Interestingly, it appears that Frontier hasn't quite yet decided how it's going to manage transitions. First of all, the transitions from space down onto the planetary surface, and then secondly, from the cockpit of the spaceship down onto the planetary surface. That's sort of interesting in a way. In my way of thinking, they already have the glide in the airless worlds. So in a sense, they already have that. It already feels like you're going through air. So perhaps that's not such a big deal. as far as the transition from the cockpit to standing on the ground is concerned, you're not going to get your Neil Armstrong moment unless, at the very least, you're walking down the steps and you actually get to put your foot on the on soil. If you just fade from black and you're standing on the ground, that's not a Neil Armstrong moment at all. So it's the bit inside the ship that I think must be undecided. Do you walk through the inside of the ship, or do you just materialize at the top of the steps? That's the only thing that I particularly took from Charlie Hall's article. I thought it was a pretty good article. He does a lot of good stuff for Elite Dangerous, and he's definitely worth following if you don't already.
Right on. Plater, your thoughts?
Obviously, I think that the main talk is really what happened with the articles was the Dev Diary came out. Everyone thought it was amazing. The articles came out. Everyone thought the Dev Diary was crap. That's kind of, and I say everyone, that's a sweeping statement if ever there was one. But it became very much like that became the key focus. It shifted the focus from everyone really loving what all the new stuff would be to suddenly the things that may not be there because the article said they would be, or wouldn't be. And of course, we have spoken to Frontier, and we've had a little bit of clarification that there has been no formal statement made around things such as fauna, and not just flora, so actual things that walk around, ambulatory life, and also that transition and ship interiors. There's been no formal statement made about that, and everyone's really picking on the detail that it won't be in there. Or they're like, well, if they say they haven't made a formal statement, it means they're not going to do it.
And just to clarify real quick for anybody who's being pedantic, I think everybody on this panel is pretty much expecting fauna of the Thargoid variety, but I don't think we have a lot of high hopes for other fauna, right? Plater, is that weird?
Yeah. I mean, I'm expecting to shoot Thargoids in the face at point blank range with some form of super advanced shotgun and say, now that's what I call in close encounter. You know, I'm there. You know, I'm ready for it. And if there isn't a melee attack either, I'm going to be really upset. But that's kind of like the first-person shootery stuff that we know is coming, but we have no idea what it is. But you know what? Frontier have just said that it's going to exist. They haven't said anything about it. But we're not focused on like, well, I don't think there's going to actually be any guns apart from the one they've shown in the trailer because we haven't seen anything else yet, and Frontier haven't said anything about it. You know, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves a lot of the time with the negative stuff because I feel like a lot of us are waiting to have that rug pulled out from underneath our hype. And those articles did that a little bit. And then, of course, you've gone back and went, hang on, why haven't Frontier openly said this about this? You know, it seems like something really important they would tell us if there was going to be animal life on planets. It doesn't seem to be like the thing that would get released in a third-party article and not provided to all publications at the same time, or all their content creators who they're looking to work with at the same time. I feel like that's something that wouldn't happen as such, and a lot of people are focused on that. So I mean, I really do encourage the whole wait for an official statement on something before you. The same way that when we get excited about things being in it.
Completely agree.
You know, and the same kind of thing, you know, and it's tough when, especially when, you know, they put an article out and it's one dude that's written this article, and then you also have some contradictory information that you found out directly from Frontier, and you're able to share it, but people don't listen to you because you're one dude. So yeah, it's a very difficult, very difficult thing, I think. And especially for us, we're so desperate for more information all the time. Every scrap we can get, when we see something for the first time and it's published somewhere, it becomes truth. That's people. That's what we do. I mean, I've done it.
Alec.
Yeah, I haven't read all these articles actually, but I guess my only issue with the articles is I never quite know what to believe. I feel like I don't know how this works. I don't know if they're actually interviews or whether there's some sort of press pack of information for these magazines to sort of recycle. But I'll just finish. But you know, I've heard around the forum and places some aspersions cast on Polygon, for example, you know, sort of comments about, oh, it's not all true, and then a lot of laughter, like, yeah, of course, polygon's never true. So I just don't know how much true. You know, there's some big bombshells in some of these articles, and I just don't know whether to believe them or not. You know, the fact that it's not coming out on PS5, the fact that we can't walk around inside our ships, the fact that there's going to be animals as well as fauna. I just don't know whether to believe any of that. So I guess I kind of take the articles with a pinch of salt.
Smart man. Very smart man. So just to answer your question of, you're saying that you don't know where that was sort of where the information sort of came from. I can say it now. I didn't before, but on August the 11th, Frontier held a showcase for multiple games for the games journalism for Games Press, one of which I mean, they did a big thing on their Planet Zoo Australia drop. They did stuff on the Planet games. They did stuff on other stuff, but they also included this information and this get together for people to ask questions. Actually, the way that I found out about it, and I knew about it, is because one of the very reputable games journalists in question, I think, was sort of drunk and tweeted, "Hey man, I don't even remember what the hell this was about," like 2 or 3 weeks before that. And it listed, he showed a picture of his like diary, and it had a thing, and it said August 11th, Frontier Showcase, question mark, question mark, question mark. Wow. And it's like, this guy, like this epitomizes to me the ethical value of games journalists, and that they just, there's no professionalism there as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, but okay.
Well, ironically, it's a job for them, so yeah. Why would there be?
Yeah, it's so weird because you have situations over and over where these games journalists, you know, leak stuff to Yamix, or leaks, you know, post on Twitter where me, just some random dude, can dig and find and see what there's this, as opposed to, you know, if you have a situation where something is told to us, quote unquote non-professionals, we handle it responsibly and with care. So whatever. All right, the Burrs, let's get your opinion on the articles if you have any.
Yeah, I think I can be quite brief. I think at the end of the day, like you say, journalists, it's their job. At the end of the day, they're all going to have a different understanding and knowledge of the game. They're all going to put their own slants in it. I think it was all a bit tit for tat. And until FDev come out and make an actual official statement on any of it, I think it's all speculation. And I'm like Alec, I'd take it with a pinch of salt. Ultimately, none of us know behind how complex the development path is and where they are in that development path. You know, there must be a lot of things that you know, probably not even too sure themselves is what's actually going to happen. So I'm personally very not inclined to believe everything that comes out in the press until FDev actually states it. So I'm with Alec on this one.
Yeah, very much in the same camp actually. I think, and it's I'd love to believe some of it, but until Frontier say something. Sorry, yeah, there isn't really, there's no meat there as far as I'm concerned.
Can I just add one tiny little thing? I have to say, just to put a positive slant on all the press things, I actually like the IGN article most, and I really enjoyed the very, very last paragraph where they reminded me, I think it's already been said, and I think it came out with the news, fleet carriers, about the you can land on the planets, and there's the contracts that you can do diplomacy and commerce and lethal stealth and all that combat, and I'm thinking, oh, lethal stealth, and it all, I don't know, that very last little paragraph just reminded me of there's some big stuff coming, nothing in detail, but it just got my excitement back up. I thought the very last paragraph of the IGN one just was a nice reminder that there's a lot more in Odyssey than perhaps just walking around your ships.
Right.
Well, good. I killed the conversation.
Yeah.
We'll go home.
Mission accomplished.
All right. I was talking into my muted microphone, so that was good.
Good.
I'm gonna go next and let Astro have the last word on this one, so we can mix it up a little bit. On the articles, for the Polygon article, I thought there was a lot of stuff in there that was very, very suspect. It was not well attributed. It was just kind of like, we talked to a person, and then like way later, just random statements. They talked about there's going to be new living creatures. That didn't seem very believable at all. They talked about other things that did seem more believable, whatever, but it was very much a hodgepodge. The that one and the GameStar article. GameStar is a German site. And the GameStar one is different from all of the other articles we just mentioned, because the GameStar one came out back in June the 4th. So that came out right when the first thing came out for the trailer that they sort of botched and released a little bit early, the hype trailer or whatever. That was when that one came out. Those two seemed to me very, very not believable, not credible. The Twinfinite article seemed to me actually to be very, very credible. It seemed to be well attributed. I would recommend, if you're going to read two articles, read the Twinfinite one and read the IGN one, because they both seem to be well sourced and saying things that seemed credible to me. But yeah, in the end, 100% echo what the other people said of, look, when there's real news, because the games journalist, to a certain extent, it's very clickbaity. It's gone a very different way, where half the time they're citing Reddit as their sources for stuff, and it's like, okay, this is not what you're really supposed to be doing. In the end, if there's going to be a real release of real information, I think you need to look for it on one of these developer diaries, on one of these live streams. You need to see it coming out of the face of a developer or a community manager, or Mr. Braben himself. But don't look for your news from these sources. Just look for maybe fillers or stuff to make you go, but don't get upset by something in there, because it's not real until you hear it from Frontier. Astro.
Yeah, the only other thing that hasn't already been mentioned was a small note. I just had to open up the Polygon article just to remind myself exactly what the wording was. But they do write in there that that Frontier is, like, now I have to get the wording right here, because we just get the article up here. It says developers are also considering allowing them to walk inside starships, exploring the vessels they've owned for years for the first time.
But not at launch.
But not at launch, yes.
Yeah.
And also considering, so means not decided. I know, as we talked about before, the message about people really want to be able to walk inside their ships, and we could discuss that for hours. It's absolutely something I want to do at some point, but I don't know what I think about the whole walk inside the ships, and whether it's actually gonna come, when it's gonna come. I mean, it might be, I don't know, a year after initial release. We don't know, but that's the only thing I really thought. Well, okay, but again, as you guys have said, I don't know how credible some of these are, and I would prefer to wait until we hear it directly from Frontier.
Yep, 100% agree. All right, so that brings us to our next point, which is, what do we know so far? I'm actually going to start this one off. I'm going to kick this one off, and then I'll kick it over to Plater. So what do we know so far? Well, we know there's going to be tenuous atmospheric landings. We know that there's going to be the rocky Mars-like Mars-like worlds. We know there's going to be ice planets. Plater's absolutely right. We know there's going to be some high metal content planets. So these, but these two sort of basic type of looking ones, the ones where you look out and just see rocks, and the types where you look out and you see ice, we're going to see those two types. And we know about a bunch of the different features in the planetary tech on those types. We know that there's going to be walking around on foot. We know that there's going to be a hand scanner. We know there's going to be plants. We know there's going to be multiple new elite ranks added. I suspect that those ones are going to be either, for sure, we got the exobiologist, which I thought was a weird choice of name that they didn't go with exobotanist, but exobiologist. And we know there's another one coming with the launch of Odyssey. I suspect it's a 50-50 for me on whether we're talking about exogeologist or first-person shooter pew-pew combat rank, however you want to say that. So that I think there's going to be 6 elites. Sure. And we know about the there's multiple types of suits that are manufactured by Remlock. We don't know how many, but we know that there's at least 2, if not more. We know about, you're going to get your first boots on the ground is going to be recorded. First recording of a plant is going to be recorded in the Codex. So the first boots on the ground will be listed on the planet. I guess, you know, just like now you see first discovered, first mapped. You'll see first discovered, first mapped, first stepped or something. And on the plants Codex stuff, you're going to, oh, this is, you know, Kai was the first one to find this weird plant. We know that stuff, that data is going to be used and is going to be, I suspect it's going to be both an engineering mat and a credit source, but we'll see. We know, this is exhaustive, but let me go through here. We know that all of the planets are getting a upgrade, an uplift, a facelift with regard to the planetary tech on how they actually make this stuff look. We don't know that 100% with regard to Earth-like worlds and water worlds and gas giants, but we do for the rocky worlds, the icy worlds, the mineral content worlds, because we saw all of those different ones and we saw the graphical upgrades with regard to that. We know that there's multiple new tools. That one hand tool, the field sampler, is not the only one, because Stephen literally said there's more tools coming. I can't wait to see the other tools. I suspect those other tools, you're going to either see some form of a hand tool that does, you know, exogeology or exomineralogy or whatever you want to call it, where it's like, okay, I'm scanning rocks for stuff, and or that could have built-in functionality as and or have a completely separate tool that is some form of a hand miner tool, some form of a mining laser that you aim at rocks and zip, zip, zip and do whatever. We know that the exobiology thing has like a mini game attached to it. They talked about, Darren Halil talked about it being that there's a fine tuning reference to it. And to me, that evokes the idea of like your FSS scanner or your subsurface deposit mining or your core mining or whatever, where there's going to be some form of a mini game that you use to get like a higher score or to get whatever to successfully gather that data. We also know, and this is very, very important, and this goes back to what David Braben said in his part of the talk. When they were talking to David Braben, he says, let me pull this up. Let's see. Where did I list that here? David Braben had said, because they had asked, like, what are the types of here, hold on, let me pull this up because I did not put that in that note for some reason, and I should have. For the David Braben portion of this talk, he asked him, Stephen asks him,
okay, well,
he says, this is the first developer diary. Can you give us an insight of what is yet to come? And David responds, there will be further diaries yet to come looking at things like gameplay, 1, how the missions work, 2, how combat works, 3, and how further environments work, 4. And then, of course, there's Odyssey itself. That's an exact quote, which to me, it's like, okay, you've just set out 5 things. If there's 5 more dev diaries coming, and one is gameplay, I don't know exactly. Gameplay encompasses everything to me, but I don't. All right, so a diary on that. How the missions work. They've already said that there's going to be extensive. There's going to be new missions that are combined missions where you have like ships plus SRVs plus people on foot, like working together in some sort of a joint raid. That was mentioned in the post that was made back when the first Odyssey thing dropped. Or it could be talking about like how the mission boards are going to work on the on-foot planetary settlements or whatever. How combat works. I think you're going to get a whole dev diary on FPS Pew Pew. That's going to be a whole thing. And then how further environments work. That has me question mark. Is that could be a thing like maybe towards the end where they say, okay, and here's water worlds and here's gas giants and here's Earth-like worlds, and we plan on these, 6 months, 9 months, and a year out, or I don't know. And then the last part, and then of course there's Odyssey itself, and that has me really sort of question mark question mark, question mark. Like Odyssey, what is Odyssey? Odyssey is the greatest story ever told. The whole 10-year journey of Odysseus to make it back from the Iliad to his wife.
I think story is the
yes
is the word there. This is the story. This is the moving on of the story of Elite, if you like.
And I think that's going to get a whole dev diary. So for those people that were underwhelmed about what I am calling the Planetary Tech dev diary, David just told you, hey man, over the next couple of months, you're going to get all of this other stuff. You got that to look forward to. Enjoy. All right. I feel like I've talked way too much. So why don't we go to Plater?
How am I actually meant to follow that? Right? When you said,
well, there must be something
about all the stuff we know.
And you're up.
We're all DMing Kai going, go to Plater.
But it's like, oh God, you're corpsing me here, man.
I'm sorry.
I think you kind of went on to a little bit about stuff we don't know on the end there. I'm going to respond to a bit of that.
Okay.
You talk about the Odyssey itself. I think he's honestly just talking about the name of the expansion and it being released. I don't think that there is an Odyssey, this great journey thing. I don't think that's a thing. Honestly, that's what I think. I'm not entirely sure that is a thing in its own. I think he's very much talking about you've got all the dev diaries to come, all the press announcements, and then the actual game itself. You know, I feel like it's that because Odyssey so far there's been very little duality when it comes to things being spoken about in Elite. There's vagueness, yes, but there's very rarely is the same word used for two different things, with the exception of Aegis fighters and Aegis being the anti-Thargoid group. Like that's the only time that double word has been used like in that way. So I don't think that's necessarily a thing. Personally, I think you could be reading too much into it.
Can I ask then about Horizons? Because Horizons it was called that for a reason. It's because you could land on planets and you could see a new horizon effectively. What's the coded message inside Odyssey that could be? They've chosen it for a reason. There's something about that word that's going to encapsulate what it is we're getting next, and I don't know what it is.
And that's the thing that gives me a tiny bit of hope in what Kai's saying. Maybe Braben meant the Odyssey. Maybe he meant the story. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, because Odyssey itself simply means an extended adventurous voyage or trip, which isn't that what you do in Elite? Because there are lots of people that are on Odysseys already, technically. So every time you go out exploring, is that not an Odyssey? That's... I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's something new. Horizons, yet we can land on planets. It's a bit of a nifty gimmick. If we had Beyond, beyond what? It wasn't really beyond anything. It was, it was beyond what was there before. But then again,
beyond the horizon.
You say, you say that.
The good one was Guardians. I don't know if you remember, but when they started bandying around the word Guardians, we all thought that meant ship launch fighters, or a lot of people did, because we didn't know at all that there was another race, the Guardians. And everyone's like, what does that mean? And we just assumed it meant crew members or ship launch fighters, and I thought that was a really good surprise.
So I think
the engineers. Oh wait, hang on, bad example.
I think I'm beating you on that one, Plater, because so far we have the example of Horizons tie into Horizons, Guardians tied into the storyline of the Guardians. All you've got on your side is Beyond. So I think I got you 2-1 on that.
All right then. Okay. So, do you remember when engineers were introduced and the update was called Engineers because they had.
There you
go. But what was it?
But when did any of that ever mean storyline? That didn't mean storyline.
It doesn't in the sense of engineers.
Did it mean storyline? Because it didn't kind of really when you think about it, and it was more.
It didn't mean storyline
than Guardian. So technically, you could argue that the Guardian meaning didn't mean anything because it was more about Thargoids. So maybe
it stretch. It did refer to the type of you were doing all the Guardian stuff.
Also, I mean, yeah, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm not letting that one go.
Odyssey, I don't think you're saying Odyssey means storyline when Odyssey means a long adventurous voyage. So
AKA Elite.
Saying storyline, Odyssey's that focus on storyline, and also it's called Elite Dangerous, and it is neither elite nor dangerous if you're playing solo.
But that's like saying
people get told.
That's like saying, well, there was a book called Catcher in the Rye. It must be about a guy who plays baseball and drinking whiskey. Like, you could look at it different ways, I guess, if you wanted to. But
yeah, and was To Kill a Mockingbird actually about killing a mockingbird?
it was. I read that book. Yeah,
There was this
the
one
whole
scene.
book was chasing it. It was like the goal for it.
If I can jump in here, I had to take my headset up for like 30 seconds before. I don't know if you mentioned it, Kai, but I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that all these graphical updates are not just for the new atmospheric planets.
Yes.
These are also coming to the existing worlds. I think
Yes,
I think that's a fact that's often, well, maybe it might seem like for a lot of people, but I think it's not spelled out, and there might be some this who get confused whether this is only for our atmospheric. But I think this whole new planetary tech will not just be on the atmospheric worlds, but also the existing ones. And I'm beginning to be puzzled. What about the people who then do not buy Odyssey? Do they get this graphic patch as well?
They do. I would bet money that they do.
I'd absolutely put money on that. Yep.
And I did mention that real quick, down to earth. But yeah, why don't we? Okay, so while they're spoons, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to say quick in with that though is that those people that have Horizons see different planets from those people that have the base game.
Yep.
So does that mean that Odyssey is going to update the base game as well?
I think that's that problem. This is a guess, but I think that problem's going to go away entirely because base game is going to have Horizons rolled into it.
I think so too. Yeah.
In the future,
that would be my bet as well. Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't make. If you look at it from like a new player, you come in post Odyssey launch. You come in and you say, "Ooh, Elite is really fun." You play around, and if you have the base game in the version it has now, if you want the full experience, and you have to buy both Horizon and Odyssey, it doesn't make any sense buying Odyssey without Horizon. So it has to be a DLC for a DLC. So I think it's really unlikely that Horizon is going to continue as a standalone DLC. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to merge the two together. And for the people who do not have Horizons yet, well, congratulations, you just got a DLC for free.
All right, Wotherspoon, your thoughts on what we know now?
Yeah, it's interesting actually what you've just been talking about, because if you don't buy Odyssey, yes, you'll certainly be able to land on existing airless planets. You may require a hardware upgrade if you automatically get the extra rendering and the extra sort of quality, but I can't see how you can avoid that, because you want everyone to see more or less the same thing once they're close enough to interact with it. What will be kind of interesting though is that you've got people who have Horizons who are able to drive around in their SRVs on those planets.
Yeah,
but they presumably can't get out of them.
Correct.
And you'll have other people who can walk around those SRVs, perhaps. Because they've bought Odyssey.
So it's
interesting. Yeah,
so they can drive them over their SRVs.
The mechanics of that are all a big question mark in TBD.
They are.
I think we gotta just accept the fact that is the that like religion is the unknowable at the moment.
It's the demarcation point though, because there's two things. There's new planets you can land on, and that's easy to get around because for Odyssey you just need yourself a new sort of planetary landing suite, which only allows you to land on those. We have for existing landable planets, that demarcation point's quite hard to define. But moving on to sort of other stuff we know. I think you've covered most of it. The only other thing that I saw significant is that we're definitely going to be modeling the geology of the planets properly, using kind of like science and procedural seeds, so that you're going to get volcanism and cryovolcanism, which already exist in game to some degree, but this is going to be more detailed.
We already are. They're already doing plate tectonics and stuff.
Absolutely, yes.
It's nice to know they're continuing to do that.
Yeah, and getting the mare like you get on the moons, the kind of the sort of volcanic sort of lakes, if you like. I thought the ice world shots that we saw were actually pretty good. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, it's not like the FX17 kind of concept art, but that's concept art.
I think it looks. I think it looks amazing. Yeah.
I think they look great as well. I think Wotherspoon might have seen the inner chat that involved some dissing of it, but actually I did think it looked fantastic. It doesn't quite stand up to that concept art, but that was concept art. It looks great. I can't wait to try it.
And the other thing with regard to what you just said, Wotherspoon, the Linnae and the palimpsests both involve sort of atmospheric effects. So like if you have a Linnae and you have a palimpsest, with both of these things, what you have is sunlight or starlight, I guess to be more precise, cooking off bits of water vapor that then come off that cause those erosional effects. And you saw at one point in the actual dev diary, as there was I think it was a chieftain or a challenger was flying up, you could see some foggy bits in the background there, and some in the foreground, which I think, to me, what's super exciting is the idea of driving and seeing little striation marks in the ground caused by evaporated water vapors or briny water vapor or whatever is like, okay, whatever. But the idea of driving my SRV down a hill and all of a sudden I hit a foggy patch because I'm in this, what looks like a smoke thing of that stuff, which would be the equivalent of a dust patch on a rocky world. That for me is exciting as all hell. I'm like, oh yes, please.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have to ask in that first 4.5 minute video, when K. Ross sort of rattled off Linnae palimpsest, how many people immediately went to Google and were like, what was that word?
Yeah, we did that.
What?
Yes, yeah.
We had a whole long conversation.
I turned on the subtitles to check what they were first.
I had no idea what they were.
Linnae, palimpsests, and cryovolcanism, and I googled all three, and well, you saw from the notes that I gave you where it has the like long explanations on them.
So
It's interesting that we saw dust clouds, and the one thing that if we've got thin atmospheres and we've got sort of sand and dust lying around on the surface, the next logical step from that is we need weather systems to create sandstorms and blow that dust around like it does on Mars.
That would be cool.
Oh, I want
Got my
dust
fingers
devils.
crossed.
Please give us dust devils.
All right,
I suspect.
Down to Earth, it's your turn anyways. Hop in here. What all do you want to add to the stuff that I noticed and other people noticed?
I think I already chipped in with the
Okay.
with the planet tech on non-atmospherics, but I mean, there is a lot of questions that obviously about like what happens with like non-Odyssey players versus Odyssey players, and a lot of the transitions, like just to open a can of worm here's VR. How is that gonna work for Odyssey? I mean, they have said that it's not gonna be part of Odyssey. So lots of questions there, and I really hope that we get some answers to those. I have a feeling it might be one of those we get this very, very close to launch. But these kind of detailed questions.
So here's one other thing that we did learn that I didn't mention previously, but I do want to sort of address it. If you look at the part where they're flying around on the ice world, it's two cobras that are playing tag flying over an ice planet. In that shot, which is there's a couple of great stills, there's great video of about a minute or so of interspersed little shots of them just flying around playing tag. If you notice something, on the speed indicator, it shows that the Cobra is doing like 259 meters per second or whatever, and it shows no chevrons on the engine. So those chevrons were added back in September of last year, September 18th. Those chevrons were added to the engine, showing the ones that kind of show where you're moving forward or you've got it in reverse, which to me indicates that planet, they had that planet tech looking that good over a year ago. There's just a matter of, because I've heard from multiple sources in the last week, like, they don't even have this stuff done and it's so close to being out. Of course it's going to be bad. And it's like, no, moron, let me break it down for you. They don't make planets. Frontier does not make any planets. They didn't make the universe. What they do is they make the Stellar Forge, which is this crazy matrix generating thing, and then that makes the planets. This is not like, because I've heard, it's 8 months before World of Warcraft come out, and we've already got the playable beta for that. Yes, because in World of Warcraft, you make 8 new maps per expansion, and you handcraft it where it's like, here's a hill, here's a river, here's a road, here's a house, here's 50 trees, here's a rock, here's a whatever. And in that case, when you're hand making it, yes, you're done way ahead of time with, and it's very, very easy to say like, hey man, can we put a tree over there? Yes, it'll take me 2 seconds. I can put a tree over there. This is different in that they're feeding galaxy generating rules into this sort of super matrix thing that I'm too dumb to understand, and it spits out a universe. And when you're doing something like that, or doing something like how Star Citizen is doing it, Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous are not making the same kind of games as everyone else in the playground is. Everyone else is making a game where you want a tree, you draw a tree, you're done. Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous, they're making, okay, I make this crazy supercomputer thing that then generates trees on trillions of planets. And when you do something like that, you can have a year ago what is a good looking ice planet, and the thing still might not be ready to push out because, okay, it generates billions of really good looking ones, but some of them it makes it to where, you know, the trees are all inside out, or the something is something. And so like, for people way smarter than me, people are gonna have to sort of get that, are gonna have to understand that like, this isn't a situation of these guys are completely unprepared and it's already this close to the thing. 99% of the work is just generating sort of the rule sets that then generate all the other stuff. That's how you can be this close to done and maybe legitimately not have all the answers just yet.
So there's two things there, isn't there? There's first of all, you've got to make sure that, fair enough, you've got your little seed of data that's going to decide on sort of what gets created here. You've got to make sure the rules are absolutely spot on correct, because it's going to create trillions of planets, and you need every one of those planets to turn out right. And secondly, you've got a massive QA job to make sure that they do all turn out right. So yes, I mean, they will have been working on this 2 years ago. They will have got 90% of it done 2 years ago, and they've been refining it since.
That says a lot to me, that it's like those chevrons, that little key lets you know so much into the background of like, oh wait, this is not what I was thinking it is. Alec, I know you had a point that you wanted to add.
Yeah, it's just on what Astro mentioned about the fact that they're also going to update existing worlds. If you watch the Odyssey trailer, well, you know, the 4.5-minute video, as we all did on Tuesday night, when I went back into the game Wednesday morning to start playing again, I was really struck by the difference in quality. I was down on the planet, and you would have to update them. It would be too jarring if you. You know, next time you've got a free minute, go and watch that trailer again, and then go and play the game. You just couldn't jump from one of those planets to what we have now. It would be like playing two different.
It would stand out like a sore thumb, basically.
Yeah, it would feel weird. I mean, they have to update what we've got now, or it would just feel too weird.
But so here's what I mean, the whole like the graphics on the planet just looks, I mean, so much different than what we have in Elite right now. Would you still get that effect coming from space and then going down to the planets, or flying inside the stations? I mean,
yes, because they specifically, you had Pierce, and also that Hughes guy, that guy. He said literally, we want to make it such that when you're in orbit you can see the differences, but then as you get closer and closer and closer, right up to the point where you're on foot standing next to the rock, the differences persist. We want it to generate all the way through. So like, that to me indicates that the scope and scale of this is such that it's not that, man, the planets are going to look 100% different from orbit, but once you get close it's going to kind of be the same. No, those planets did not look the same. That was all. There's a whole new planetary tech, Jack. That's new stuff.
I'm for sure gonna run around and take screenshots of planets and then do before and after.
For sure.
Absolutely, yes.
Go ahead.
So it's just one of the things about that 4.5-minute video is it showed a couple of shots of planets from space, and the reason it showed those planets from space is because it was demonstrating that they look different already from what we've seen before.
Yep. And then it showed the same planet. It showed, you know, from space. The one planet, it seemed to be sort of a rocky world with probably methane, because there was a lot of yellowish up in the atmosphere in the sky. It showed that planet from space looking very, very different. And then he showed him approaching from the ship, flying low. It looked very, very different. And then it showed that was the one where it was a woman who was standing with a rifle on her back, was standing looking off at the horizon, looked very, very different from on foot. Like, they showed the 3 levels of perspective right there, and all of it throughout was very, very different. So I know the Burrs had a question in their chat. Would the panel be happier if the scope of Odyssey was reduced, but you could walk around in your ship? A lot of people seem to have that feeling. Did people want to chime in on that at all before we move on?
I don't think it's an either or, is it? It's something that they definitely want to do. And David Braben said multiple times that he wants people to be able to walk around in their ships, but he does want there to be a reason for walking around in your ships. And if it's just a corridor to get to the exit, then perhaps that's not a good enough reason quite yet. And that perhaps there will be more panels, there'll be kind of additional gameplay that can be built into the ship. But if they let us walk through it now, that kind of precludes building in that additional gameplay later.
Astro.
So what I see the problem with walking inside ships are, of course, there needs to be something to do. At least that was my original thought, because you have to be able to go back there, and there needs to be a reason to go there. Otherwise, you're going back, you're looking, it's pretty, but then you've seen it, right? And on the other hand, I don't see them taking anything that you can already do today in your cockpit away from you, so you now have to go back. Let's say that, like, your power plant gets shut up, you need to do an emergency reboot. Now you have to go back and pull a handle on your power plant to restart it. That's never going to happen for one reason, and that is if you have 2 people, one playing with Odyssey and one playing without, the ones that play without Odyssey have access to this right from the cockpit, but those with Odyssey doesn't. That's some very unfair advantage to the people who do not have Odyssey. So they would have to add something completely new to it. However, after been playing a not small amount of Star Citizens, they are very, very well designed ships interiors. And even though there's no real gameplay in the ships, just the whole, get out of your seat, walk back, open the doors, and walk around and look at your ship, and especially if you're going to be able to customize the interiors of your ships. I could see, yes, it's not going to add a whole lot of gameplay, but I could see this being a very enjoyable experience, because this is what I've been spending the majority of my time on in Star Citizen. That's been tracking down people with a specific ship I want to see, and then get on board and walk around, just have a look at the interiors.
There's a difference there, though, isn't there? Because in Star Citizen, you can invite other people on board.
Who's to say you can't? Who's to say you can't? I mean, you can already. You can invite people to multi-crew. It seems to me that if they were to say, now you're allowed to walk on your ship, but you're not allowed to multi-crew, that would be a weird step backward. I disagree with your assumption there.
Yeah, but it's different. What we don't want is, personally, I don't think telepresence is a great solution. Just like telepresence in SRVs isn't a great solution. I would quite like that to be sort of walked back a little bit, and let's actually have real commanders coming on board your ship. Real commanders actually being there, not just pretending to be there.
Well, I mean, I completely agree. But up until now, they haven't had the tech to have any commanders walking around in your ship, much less whatever. They had to teleport you there because that's all they had. So I think that's TBD. We got to wait and see how they work all that out. But
do you think?
That brings us. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, mate. Do you think enough people don't use multi-crew in order for them to just go, okay, that's no longer a thing?
I don't. I think that what we're going to see, and this is a perfect lead into the next question, the next section, because I very strongly suspect that multi-crew and wing and a lot of the instancing issues are things that they have also worked on in this, and that are things that I suspect or question are coming. I think. Oh God, please. So let's start. So that the actual framing of the next question is, what do we know? And now, what do we suspect or wonder about? What questions do we have based on the information thus far released on Odyssey? And let's start with the Burrs.
Well, what do we know based on what's been shown already? I mean, there's stuff. I suppose there's stuff I would like to know. Would that be good enough?
Sure.
So the plant life that they've talked about. I tell you what, one thing that annoys is the wrong word, but one of the things I don't like about the current life that we can find on planets is that it's essentially the same version of the same thing, or a different version of the same thing. You know, so you get brain trees and you get pumpkins and whatnot. What I'd like to know about the plant life is, have they gone down the procedural route with that stuff?
Yes.
And you're going to go to a planet and you will see completely random plants that you have never seen anywhere else that are very specific to that planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
They I think they said that. And the thing they
No,
showed where they
Has that been
anything about
explicitly stated?
so where they showed the plant life, they showed two different types, and the first was like shrubbery, and there was 4 very different distinct types of shrubbery. And
When
then
you say
they
shrubbery, all I can see is Monty Python. Go on.
yeah, and then they showed a thing that I'm going to call space cacti, and they showed 3 different space cacti, and then some blooms off of that. And with regard to that, in the later discussion when they were talking with Darren Halil, he talked specifically about they talked about the vegetation and the fauna, or flora rather, and they said that the different planets have different chemical compositions and different whatever, and you're going to see plants that are distinct, that are alien, but that you can sort of recognize genuses. You can recognize like, oh, this species seems to be similar to that species, but they're distinct and different, and that it's going to be different on different worlds.
Is that the convergent evolution they were talking about?
I believe so. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But they've only actually.
If that just means like a different coloured space cactus,
Oh
to the
well,
previous space cactus that I've seen, then I'll be a little bit disappointed, you know, because even someone correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know No Man's Sky terribly well, but hasn't that got completely random plants depending on what planet you're on that are all procedurally generated? They might not be generated terribly well,
And
terribly
sometimes you come
accurately.
across the same stuff on different planets as well.
Do
They
you?
look identical.
Okay.
Yeah.
but
Okay.
in fairness, like it's like you can find look at on Earth we have completely distinct sort of biospheres or whatever ecologies, and
Yep.
there's weird times where you can find, hey man, there's a plant that's normally found just in Australia, but somebody must have transplanted one over to here, and now all of a sudden there's some in Nevada or whatever. So like
Right.
that doesn't bother me so much as what my only sort of real question mark hope or whatever on the plants is, don't give me a planet, and I don't think this is going to be the case. I have faith that this is going to be well, but don't give me a planet where I scan it and it says there are 9 biology sites, and those are the 9 places on this entire planet that you can go to and see a bush. Like, make it just sort of everywhere. But
Well, to be honest, that would take away from the walking on foot bit and the exploring on the planetary level, because all you do is you'd fly a spaceship down and then you just get out and scan it. It'd take 5 minutes.
100%. 100%. If the only time that you're on foot doing something is the last 8 feet because you fly over to 200 yards from the plant site, so you land where you don't squish the plants, then you drive over the 200 feet, 200 meters or whatever to where the plant is, and then you get out and walk the last 5 feet to stick it with your little sampler, then that would be a real bummer for sure. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Burr. We were on the Burr's section on things that we suspect and question and wonder and hope for.
The other thing I'm very, very curious to know about is the social spaces that they've mentioned, social hubs, and how that works. That kind of tied in sort of to my comment about multi-crew earlier on, because it's still a very, very, very big galaxy. So if you're going to have, I don't know, social spaces, I'm wondering if we were going to have some kind of nexus kind of thing where if I go to a social hub in Sol and Wotherspoon is in Colonia and he goes into a social hub, will we then be in the same room? And from that room, will we then be able to go and do a thing together? That sounded weirder than I wanted it to.
I was like, whoa, what are you guys
Sorry about that, Pete.
We can do a thing together.
Which brings me on to the sampling tool.
Oh, Jesus.
Will we be able to go into some sort of instantiated, like a raid, like a dungeon raid kind of thing from inside that Nexus sort of social space? Do you know what I mean? I'm completely I'm wondering how they're going to connect people on different sides of the galaxy still.
So you want to go into a locked room with Wotherspoon and get your sampling tools out, and
that's basically what I'm after.
Don't forget Plater. He wants Plater in there as well. Just
I don't want Plater anywhere near my Wotherspoon.
Put you to shame, buddy. Put you to shame.
All right, Reedy, your turn.
I think for me, seeing the cool grabby claw thing.
What does that do?
Oh,
I'm really frightened by that thing. It's going to be like.
I would have liked them to. They must know roughly how that's going to work, and I would have liked to have seen if they were going to focus on the plants and the discovery scanner thing on this dev diary. It would have been nice if they'd gone a little step further and told us roughly how that worked. So, if I'm going to go exploring, I'm really encouraged with that as gameplay for me as an explorer. But if it's going to be really monotonous, and if it's just going to be a point and click that's too boring, is it going to be like the composition scanner, or is it going to be like almost like a mini game like the blowing up asteroids? I'd like to know. It equally worries me. Plus, I'm curious how that's going to work. So looking forward to that. The ranking things, and partly on the social hubs, I think it would be nice if there was some way of perhaps having certain sort of squadron social hubs. I'm looking for. I don't know how that, because we've got to be able to, like Burr said, we've got to be able to get people. It's a vast galaxy. We've got to be able to get people together somehow. But then maybe if with the ranking, if there's going to be more ranks, like we've got the exobiologist, we're going to get a combat one, something like. Is there going to be a ground combat one as an incentive to do ground combat? And then if you reach a certain level, would that unlock another social hub, like something like Shinra? Would there be
exclusive club
like,
kind of thing?
Yeah, a little bit as an incentive to do that, because at the minute, Shinra and other places, you unlock these places which become a little bit exclusive.
What if it's
interesting?
You get
What if it's in Shinrarta? What if you go to Shinrarta Desra, which you need elite in something to get to, right? And in Shinrarta Desra, when you dock, there's a bar that's like the salty dog that only people that are elite FPS pew pew can get into. And in there,
sounds like a horrid place.
Whatever. All right.
I don't know. All us explorers can have the elite, the biologists can go out and hang out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't people find that Shinrata's like one of the least social places in the game? Like nobody ever speaks to you in chat, and everyone's too busy.
Oh, just go to the place of the bar fights then.
That's just you, Alec.
It's just me. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, you might be right.
Everybody just goes in, buys the stuff, and leaves as quickly as they can.
Just a quick one. Somebody on chat and our thing had quite a good point about going back to your point, Bert, and the No Man's Sky and the variation of generating different flora and fauna. How much can the Codex actually cope with? If it's going to be so randomized, can your Codex actually cope with that?
The Codex is pretty beefy, considering if you look at all the stats that it keeps track of, and you look at just now the different random, millions of different places where there's peduncles or this, that, and the other. If I was going to put my money on something being robust and able to keep up, it would be the Codex.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I wouldn't want to see is that there's 150 different sorts of plant life, and you can kind of do a Pokemon thing. You can go and scan them all, and then you're done. It's got to have more kind of staying power than that, or else we'll just.
I must know, because surely exploration is, even though Odyssey might be aimed at sort of first-person section, ultimately exploration is still a huge part of the player base. So
I don't think Odyssey is aimed at. You're thinking first-person shooters, aren't you? I don't think Odyssey's aimed at first-person shooters.
No, I think they came out right out of the gate with this very first one, and you had guys that were talking about how, literally, you had that guy saying exploration is the thing that sets Elite Dangerous apart from all the other games. We can do something that no one else can. They know, and David Braben has talked repeatedly about, don't try to copy everybody else. Don't make another Fortnite. If you have something, an idea that's different, if you have something that sets you apart from the pack, that is your cachet. If you can make it fun and you can make it whatever, like, go hard on it. And I think if anything, we're going to see a blossoming and a resurgence of exploration in the time of Odyssey, not sort of making it less than. Alec,
that would be lovely.
You're up.
I can't wait to see a demonstration of the botany scanner thing.
Because
currently my expectations are deliberately really low. The idea of seeing something, of having new things out there that you can scan and add to your Codex. Well, we all know how exciting it is to go and do that with brain trees or bark mounds or even stellar phenomena. It's all right. It's cool. You get to see some weird new shapes. I see some great screenshots of stellar phenomena, but it's not actually that very exciting, is it? And adding it to your Codex.
Varied. No.
Yeah. So I'm really curious. It's great that there's a hint that the use of that scanner is skill based, but I'm holding my expectations in reserve on that. It might not be that great. But there are some other interesting things I wanted to mention. The why do things on foot? I can't wait to see some demonstration of that. It's a really good question. Like, why not just fly? Land your Cobra next to the plant. What's the incentive to actually maybe walk a mile on foot? Can't wait to see if they've come up with a reason for people to actually do things on foot.
I see a lot of walking around here or there on foot, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of I'm walking miles on foot. No, I think that's going to be, unless you're talking about cave-based type stuff or maybe small areas that you can't get a vehicle into.
Well, walking around the planet.
We all know there is going to be, like, within a week, there's going to be someone who did their first marathon in Elite. Basically.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
I was thinking it was going to be Alec. It was going to be the
probably will.
I circled Pamesh 2 on foot.
we really want to yeet Alec into space.
Let's not forget, we didn't see it on Tuesday, but we do have the jetpacks. So there is a sense that we might at least be cushioning a fall down a cliff face or something. So there's an expectation that we'll
want to try one of them on a 10G planet.
Yeah. There's an expectation that we'll be doing more than landing next to a plant and scanning it. There needs to be a reason to go distances on foot. So I'm curious
don't need
about
jetpacks for that.
Now I'm just picturing Wotherspoon looking like an Oompa Loompa going, that didn't go well. All right. Here's
one. Hang on, I haven't quite finished. Here's another one. So we're walking around, I was looking at the animation of the walking and stuff, which is quite nice. Does anyone think we're going to be able to slash dance and stuff like that? Are we going to get emotes?
Oh
salute emotes?
Oh no.
Just and one last one. No, one last one.
I think you've got to have, haven't you?
Well, that's it. You go to a social hub. You want to maybe wave at somebody.
If nothing else, mate, they can sell them.
If we go planet side and I'm seeing somebody doing the night elf dance, the Michael Jackson dance, I'm just gonna uninstall. I'm out.
Yeah, I know. It's bad, isn't it? Yeah. And here's one more that
I'll take the bounty.
They haven't mentioned this at all, but we see a visual upgrade to the surfaces. If you look at that surface of the ice planet, then that looks like surface snow. So if you drive through it in an SRV, you would expect to leave tracks. But it made me wonder, are the tracks just a texture on top? Or is there... I wonder if they've done anything to make stuff a little bit more deformable. Could brain trees maybe bend a little bit in the update? Could rocks, small pebbles, maybe be moved a little bit? Are any of these things too much to hope for? That everything might not be made of rock?
It'd be nice if the SRB didn't sink anymore as well. That'd be one thing which would be nice.
Yeah.
All right, and we're gonna do one last thing from Darling Ree before Plater gets to speak because she's cuter than he is. Go for it.
Only just. Just a really tiny thing, something we've seen but don't know quite the answer to. We saw, obviously, from the footage outside the SRV in particular, the camera suite obviously is still there in what we saw, but it's only not in-game yet. Where do we land with the camera suite on?
Yeah, we need to know.
We really need to know about that. For all content creators need to know about that sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Absolutely. Plater, you get to go finally.
Hooray! So my thing that I really want to talk about, and shut up. And no matter kind of, we've spoken about all the individual features. My thing is how it all ties together. So we do think about transition from chair to feet, or from chair to SRV to feet, or do we go from chair to feet to SRV? Are you going to tell me that if I get out on a planet, I get out in my SRV, And then I'm like, oh, you know what? It's got flat. I can't bother to change the time. I'm just going to jump on my ship. Can I leave the SRV behind? Or do I have to go back the same path? And then I'm very interested in how the change of controls is going to work as well, because I don't see me playing a first-person shooter part of the game with a HOTAS. And when I play on my HOTAS, I have it in line with my elbows in front of me on my desk. But that's when I play a first-person shooter, I have my mouse in the place of where the stick is. So it's going to be a bit of a pain, I guess. But
hard to imagine.
And there are some people that have built themselves sim rigs, and they sit in it. They've got their screens in front of them. They've got everything there, and they don't play first-person shooters as such. So it's going to be interesting to see how. Obviously, that's their choice. I think basically that's their problem. What it kind of is. But as the game evolves, I guess they don't engage in that gameplay as much, which is fine.
Maybe.
But it's that I wonder how that's going to work, how a control system's going to work. Is it going to still be control lot and space to get into the camera suite? Or I know I stand a very good chance of crouching, dodging, and jumping at the same time. You never know. And accidentally opening the camera suite in the middle of combat with someone. It's like those kind of things where I'm interested to see how smooth the process is going to be for the gameplay, because I don't want it to be like you open a menu, now you're on your feet, you open a menu, now you're on your SRV, you open a menu, you get back into your SRV kind of thing. That's a lot of my thoughts around that. Is what's that going to be like? How's that process going to be? Is it going to be smooth? Will Frontier move away from this menu-based interaction that they have at the moment? Because it is quite heavily menu-based. And I guess that's probably talking about it in quite a positive light. For example, the fleet carrier thing. I know lots of people are annoyed that it's a 5 billion credit menu. At points, yeah, it is. But how else would you manage it? That's what it's like. Even if you were to get up and go to the bridge, it would be a menu with literally extra steps. You're going from one place to another to arrange stuff. So, yeah, immersion's slightly better. But I kind of want this. I want what will hopefully be a nice smooth gameplay process transition from ship to foot and back again. That's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I want some details on. I want to know how that's going to work.
That's a tricky one, Plater, because there's going to be people that are like, give me more immersion, and there's going to be people very rightly on the other side that are like, hey man, don't screw with my stuff. So that if you have a situation where you say like, okay, now we've put it in, and from now on, when you accept your missions, you have to dock in the station, get out, walk over to a bar, talk to a mission giver, have a conversation, go through the stuff, whatever. And there's going to be people that will be like, yo, man, I just wanted to turn this in, grab 2 more planetary scans, and head back out. I wanted it on the menu. And there's going to be the people that are like, I want the option to go have a whole RP conversation with, Mr. McNugget, the leader of the faction of whatever and planet XYZ. And like, I think, yeah, that there's questions there where they have to watch out. They're walking a tightrope, and there's missteps on both sides. And I think that maybe the best answer that you hope for is that they give the RP babies their loop, and they give the quick efficiency babies their loop, and then everybody is more or less happy with, okay, I got an option. I don't know.
I think the most important thing to be protected in any game, in any update, any patch, is fun. That is the most important part of any computer game. We play them to have fun. I don't play them for self-punishment. People that play Dark Souls obviously do it for self-punishment. But I think a game should be fun. It should be enjoyable, and you should want to play more of it. Like, it should be that you stop playing and go, oh, I wish I had more time.
Yeah.
That's always the way I see it, is that time should be the only limiting factor of what makes you want to play a computer game or enables you to play a computer game. It shouldn't be necessarily accessibility. So, if there's a feature, for example, in a game that causes migraines, can trigger audio-visual migraines in people, they exist. They are a thing. They happen. Maybe that shouldn't be in the game. Same way that if you're playing the game, and this kind of brings us something some mentioned in my chat earlier, is that there should really, ideally, be a colorblind mode. And this is obviously a very different thing to talk about. But that can limit people, because if you're looking at something all the time trying to work out what freaking color something is, you're going to have some kind of brain fatigue in there. My dad's colorblind. He tells me that he paints more soldiers. He says sometimes he's not entirely sure if he's painting them brown or if they're red or if they're green. He doesn't really know the color sometimes, and that's when he knows he has to stop. But that's tiring and gives you a bit of a headache. I think there does need to be some real gameplay protection, and that needs to be considered more than anything.
I'm actually colorblind, so yeah, I totally get that thing that you're talking about there. That's All right, Wotherspoon, your thoughts on what we are hoping for, what we question, what we wonder about.
Well, I think that Odyssey is going to attempt to deliver something for everyone. We've already seen a little bit about exploration and how that's going to work, and that there's new things to scan. There's going to be combat. We already have a pretty good idea that there's going to be Thargoids. There's going to be probably some sort of shooting or hand-to-hand combat. We don't really know exactly what that's going to be like yet. How do we find the Thargoids? I hope that's going to be a more interesting, engaging game rather than there's an ISS, a signal source, and you just sort of say, "Oh, look, there's a signal source on the ground. There'll be some Thargoids there." I hope there's a bit more to it than that. Infiltrating surface bases, that would be something that would be quite exciting. Get out of your scarab and actually go and do stuff. That's combat. Mining. Will there be mining? Will there be surface-based prospecting and mining for materials and cargo? Will be. Yeah, I hope so. New materials for Odyssey, almost certainly, and probably a new economy as well, for that matter, for trading and smuggling. What are we going to do? Will we have to do, as you were discussing earlier, will we have to do on-foot collect and deliver missions? Will we need to actually go and find a particular person inside the base? Which in itself could be interesting, because it could be defended. It could be that there's people out to get you who are going to be chasing you through the base. Will we be able to go? Well, we will be able to go inside some bases. But probably not all of them. That might just be the social hubs. Something that Commander Beetlejude was talking to me about earlier was for black market and smuggling missions. It would be absolutely great. It'd be much more immersive if you really do need to go and find somebody, find a specific contact, evade the surveillance, and develop a reputation with the crime syndicate, and get harder, more challenging missions as you develop your reputation with them, chaining off the first one, perhaps make it into more of a story, and so that's all the profession stuff. Then there's other stuff. I mean, we haven't really got the faintest idea of what happens when you die. You get shot in real life, you die. You get shot in this game. What do you have? Vitidine nanomeds to bring you back to life again? There's going to be some sort of resurrection system, clearly. We're going to be seeing NPC SRVs. We're going to be seeing NPCs on foot, I would imagine. And of course there'll be new surface vehicles. There'll be, in addition to the core dynamics surface reconnaissance vehicle, the SRV Scarab, there must be something more to make a richer environment there. There's lots and lots and lots of stuff that we haven't even scratched the surface of yet.
Absolutely. Who would have thought when I wrote this question, I put a quarter in both Wotherspoon and Alec. They're like, "All right, we're gonna go. We got stuff to talk about." Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Astro, you're up.
Yes. So what you briefly mentioned it. I'm hoping for caves. I can see caves adding a real challenge and some actual danger to the exploration part. If they make them right, if they make them complicated and convoluted enough that you can actually get lost. I mean, I'm gonna assume that we're gonna have limited oxygen in our suits, so that we can't just run around for hours. We have to make it back to some kind of oxygen source. That could be a ship, that could maybe be the SRV, it could be a base, whatever. And what I really hope for is that this whole spacesuit is not just going to be, there is spacesuit A and spacesuit B, but it's going to be a more like, now when you choose the ship, it should be you choose the spacesuit for whatever task you're trying to solve. So there might be spacesuits with lots of armor, but maybe they only have, I don't know, 20 minutes of oxygen. So you can say, am I gonna go for the armor with maybe less armor but more oxygen, or am I gonna gamble I can make it into that base, shoot up the bad guys, and come back out before my oxygen runs out?
Okay, what if I blow your mind here, Astro? What if they give us only 3 types of suit, but those suits have like 6 slots for
exactly
modules?
That was the next section. I was like, hopefully they're gonna be you can modify them. Like, basically have like modular inserts you can put into them. A lot like modules we have on ships. So what I'm essentially hoping for is that spacesuits is essentially just going to be almost like spaceships, that you can build them or maybe even engineer them. That would be awesome. So we can get some builds going regarding that, and yeah, hopefully.
Astro, why am I having this image of you crawling around in this cave looking for a guy who turns out to be dead?
Yeah.
For those who didn't see it, Astro did a stream of him exploring a cave system looking for a guy in Star Citizen, and it was basically that story.
Yeah. No, but it's
no.
What they've done in Star Citizens is quite enjoyable with caves. Like, you get in there and there is an actual real chance that if you don't pay attention, because there's no markers in there, there's no light in there, there's no this is your way out. The only way I could have a sense of direction was because then you could see which direction my ship was at. But you will get lost in there if you're not careful, and you're not gonna get out again because you're gonna run out of oxygen eventually. And
it'd be really cool. It'd make him feel really claustrophobic, wouldn't it?
It is really claustrophobic, and I was really scared the first time you walk into a cave like that, because you really know, even though the consequences in the game are minimal, but still, you're really like, I really want to be careful every time you got to an intersection. I looked around. Okay, so there's that weird rock there. I need to remember that and then head right when I come back, because otherwise, and like write the thing down, because otherwise I'm gonna get stuck in here. And I've had some close calls.
There was a bit where you crawled into a bit that you could crawl down, but you couldn't crawl back up. It was like too narrow. It was just narrow enough for you to gravity assist drop down or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Something like that, I think, is really cool. And of course, there should be a reason other than there's a chance you die to go into those areas. It could be missions. It could be that there are like, I don't know, it could be something like there's a disused mine somewhere. Go into that and there's some mining materials you can get, but there's also a chance that, I don't know, mine's gonna collapse and you have to find another way out, or I don't know, there's like many possibilities. So all in all, what I really hope for is not just surface but also subsurface content to come to it.
Okay. All right, so we're on to me. What do we suspect? What do we hope for? What do we whatever? I strongly suspect that the next we're going to get 2 new elite ranks, as I said, and the second one is going to either be exogeology of some form or exomineralogy, and the second one is going to be exo-pew-pew or FPS pew-pew. I don't know. It may be both, maybe one or the other, whatever, in addition to exobotany. I'm very much intrigued, and I have also been thinking, it's been spinning around in my brain for days, the way Wotherspoon mentioned about how do you handle death? Because, you know, currently we're all just telepresenced. So death is your SLF blows up or your SRV blows up and boop, you're back in your seat, in your ship, safe and sound, because you were never there. Except for now we're going to be there. How do you, if a Thargoid just goes ahead and you know, gives your little helmet a 780 degree twist, you're not telepresence, you're actually there. So as your head is popping off, how do they, you know, is it like, oh, it's like the Eve answer, your clones, or how is, like, and I don't know about any of that, and I very much wonder how they'll have to handle that. And then that ties into what Burr said of how does it handle, how do you deal with if you have a situation where I want to go and take Burr for a drive in my SRV and show him a cave somewhere, but he's on the other side of the galaxy. It's not telepresence. You actually have to be there. How is that gonna do a thing? Don't worry, I'll leave you intact for Wotherspoon. It's fine.
I was gonna say I'll be busy with Wotherspoon.
So the whole problem with that is, let's say that I invite you on my ship and we're walking around and we're looking at caves or whatever, and then I say, oh, like real life calls, I gotta go, I log out. What happens to you? I mean,
I'm picturing that there was a Twilight Zone where it was just that one dude wandering the desert planet in the middle of nowhere, like, I don't know what to do now.
I have to wait for the guys to come back online, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, so they have to make sure that if you are on another person's ship, or if you're exploring something with another person, that if that person, I don't know, disconnects, loses connection, has to go, whatever, that you are not just stuck there and you actually can get back to your ship. So that's why I'm thinking it's probably going to be telepresence.
And then the other, that's possible. We'll see. What TBD. The other things that I really, like everyone, we haven't mentioned it yet, but I'm just going to say it quickly and move on. I'm curious about VR for my VR brethren. I am curious about walking in ships and stations for myself because, these are important things, but I think these are things that we have to wait for. I'm curious for the Thargoids in the storyline. I'm very, very, very curious that there's a very real possibility with the changes that have happened recently with the console market that we could, for the first time, see a surprise announcement at some point in Odyssey of, oh, and by the way, you're all going to be in one galaxy now. PlayStation, Xbox, computers, all together. Have fun. Peace out. Mic drop. That's huge for me, and I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. And then two things that I want to highlight. One, Psyche did on her breakdown. I don't know if anybody here on the panel has seen it yet, but if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, this is interesting points, go check out Psyche's breakdown of this thing. She put out a little video on the dev thing, and then she said, it's weird to me that they keep saying that Neil Armstrong moment, that Neil Armstrong moment, that Neil Armstrong moment. What if they're going to do a cheeky little surprise and say, oh, by the way, we unlocked the moon, you can land there now, and have the Neil Armstrong moment where you're standing on our moon looking up at our Earth lit by the sun, and have that just holy crap space nerdgasm moment.
Just be really careful not to stand on Neil Armstrong's footprints, okay?
No, don't do that.
A bit off, wouldn't you? Honestly.
You know what? If you're gonna, honestly too, if they do that, I really, really hope, if you're listening to me, Frontier developers and or community managers, please, under first footsteps, put Neil Armstrong. Don't make that a thing that's gettable by someone in the game. Make that Neil Armstrong.
Awesome.
That would be awesome.
That would be very cool.
And that would, yeah. And then the last thing I want to say, anybody that's listening to this, if you have not seen it, there's a YouTube channel called Space Hero. The guy's name in game is DJ Wiley, but Space Hero on YouTube. He did a phenomenal video that, at least for my podcast, I'm going to link in the show notes, where he went to all of the planets that were in the developer diary, and you saw them, how they see them. He went to them right now in game, and the difference between looking at a slightly beige volleyball or a slightly pink volleyball, and then what you see there in the developer diary, is so amazing that I think it's easy for us to take for granted just how huge that the change is. And I just would encourage everyone, go check out those two things. Yeah, man. All right. Is there anything else on what we wonder, whatever that people want to sort of hit up before we go on? No?
Nope.
Okay. The next point was content versus delivery. And this is just a super, super brief one. I'm going to go first. The content of this, honestly, I give a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's amazing. The delivery on this, for the dev diary, I give it a 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was really, really good. For that other stream, I'm going to go ahead and give that a 2 out of 10. Wasn't thrilled. Burrs, your thoughts?
Yeah, I suppose the if we're going with scores, I'd go with the dev diary was probably a solid 7 or 8 for me. How did you feel about that?
9 for me.
You were really blown over, weren't you? Which is great. I really wanted them to have a really good moment with the live stream, and I was so disappointed for them. So I'm gonna go with it.
1.5.
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
Woo!
I know, harsh, but
Hey, that's where I was at, so it's
toe
fine.
curling, wasn't
it
it?
was a little bit toe curling, sadly, and I wish it for them. It
I
hadn't
wanted
been.
it to be so much better for them. Yeah.
Plater.
So content of the dev diary, great. Really liked it. So it was pretty much spot on what I was expecting. I was expecting something brief, light, a bit of hype build. The delivery of it was good. I found it say awe-inspiring, and that sense of like excitement gave me some hype. Great. The live stream, obviously, not so much, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, fair. We'll accept that as a you don't need to know. All right, Alec.
Content 8, and for delivery live stream, we'd give that a 2.
Fair. Down to Earth.
The Dev Diary. If we're gonna give it scores, I'm probably like an 8. Definitely room for improvement. I really like what they did. I just wish there were more. And for the live stream, well, that could be a place to give us more. So instead of doing a recap, yeah, maybe use the live stream to go in depth and dive into some details.
Ooh, that's the Denmark way of saying I'm not giving you a number for that one because it's not great.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
That's the polite thing.
Waterspoon. I love you, dude. Waterspoon.
Okay, I'm not sure I could sensibly give ratings to the two different videos we've seen. The point here, I think, is that Frontier is a business. Frontier needs to make this successful. They need to draw in a lot more players. They need to draw in players from No Man's Sky. They need to draw in players from Star Citizen. They need to draw in players from lots of other games. They need to make this a really big success. They've started off quietly. They've got room for improvement with the content that they deliver. They're also, though, starting to engage content creators. And to be honest, in many ways, content creators are in a better position to create content, to do the hype and the excitement on behalf of Frontier. And I do hope that program, which I know is reaching out to people who are Star Citizen streamers, it's reaching out to people who are streamers of other games. I really hope that begins to bring in the audience to start building the hype and to coalesce around something which will make Odyssey a really big and successful launch for Frontier, because if they do that, then the game's going to continue getting funding, the game's going to continue to develop. That's what I want to see.
Well, I mean, it's no secret. It's no secret that the Burrs, Plater, Down to Earth, myself, there's a group.
Oh, you're the Anointed. Yes, I was reading about this in the forums. Yes.
Well, look, here's all I want to say about that, though. There is no secret that there are some of us that are working on that program, and I have seen from that program other people coming in from other, like Frontier is doing, I think, very smart moves on how they address people from the outside who can maybe bring in a Star Citizen audience or bring in a No Man's Sky audience or different various other audiences, and without giving any information away that would in any way violate anything or get me in trouble, I will just say this: there are, as you say, this program is a good step, Waterspoon. This is a good outreach. There are things going on behind the scenes that are, to me, very, very heartening, very, very encouraging, very, very have me very, very excited for what's to come.
Excellent. Good to hear.
Does anybody want to add anything to that, or this is just free talk at this point? We can wrap up whenever. Does anybody want to anybody have anything at all?
No, I think we covered. I'm probably gonna
covered everything.
All right, hang out on my stream afterwards a little bit.
Beautiful. I want to put in a little plug for those because he talked to me earlier. Mal for the Win is an awesome guy. If you guys are Twitch streaming, and obviously go till you go, but if there's if when you guys end, he was saying he was super bummed because he wanted to be here, and he's like, oh, that sucks that we're gonna partially overlap or whatever. Send him some love if you're going that way after. Yeah, for sure. Check out Psyche's thing with that whole moment, and tell me what do you guys think about that Neil Armstrong moment, real quick? Just
really
what do you think about them just doing a cheeky little? Oh, by the way, we unlocked the moon. Go take a look at Earth and be inspired. Right? Isn't that beautiful?
I hadn't considered that. Yeah, it's really interesting.
And Titan as well, of course, because Titan's locked at the moment, and it should have some massive ice volcanoes, if I remember correctly. That would be quite impressive.
Well, we got a little project going on that might be, who knows? We'll see.
It's a cool idea, but you can't prop gen it. You've got to handcraft that planet because people will pick it apart if it's not right. So I don't know. It's a big ask.
There's enough high-res scans though of that they can throw it into a machine.
Yeah. It's possible.
Just a question for everyone here as well. How often do you think would be a satisfactory amount of dev diaries coming out? What's your prediction on how many we'll get?
One a month. What I would want 3 a day. What I think we'll get and am happy with 1 a month.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
4.5 minutes a month. Oh,
Later.
more.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would get 1 a month because there is a lot of work that go into them, and there'll be a lot of work that goes into the live streams as well. The only thing that I can hope for, and I think most of us will hope for, is a increased as it gets closer and closer. The dev diaries become more in depth, more detailed, more content to them, because they will have more that they are ready to show us. And I honestly think that's where it's going to go as well.
I do think I don't see how they can't as it gets closer when they start showing gameplay. Surely they'll have an hour-long live stream of Odyssey gameplay.
I think
not just 4.5 minutes, an hour in the game doing something.
And people are going to be.
Those I'm looking forward to.
And at that point, people are going to sit. They're going to take that and they're going to pick it apart frame by frame for every single little detail.
What kind of weirdo would do
and we'll
that?
be here to talk about it.
And we are all going to be here talking about it.
So I think honestly, I don't think it's going to be 4.5 minute long videos for the dev diaries going up and then at the end an hour long. I think we're literally going to sort of see them ramp up in length as this progresses. So I think this month's, the August one, 4.5 minutes long. I think the September one, you might see 10 minutes long. You might see whatever. By the October one, you might see, a 15-minute long or whatever, and so on and so forth, I think.
It's going to be very interesting. Me personally, I literally cannot wait.
Yeah,
it's so exciting.
I wanted to draw attention to something. When I put that last question on there, content versus delivery, just throw a score out. That was not to take a dump on Frontier. That was not me trying to be negative. But I've seen in the community, I've seen on podcasts, in streams, in conversations on Discords, I've seen a lot of people say, well, I was whelmed, or well, I was meh, or this doesn't excite me. And I just wanted to draw a very, very clear distinction for people that there's a difference from having actual valid sort of criticisms over what was maybe a lackluster presentation, while still retaining the opinion that the content itself was very exciting. It was just, you want to separate the two. If I have, the greatest book ever, and you turn it into a really, really crappy movie, you could still say like, hey man, that movie sucks, but the book was good. Go get it.
And also, I'd say, like, it's interesting. At this point, we've kind of put we've set a benchmark now, right? So wouldn't it be nice if 8 weeks from now we're sitting here talking again, going, that was a solid 9.9.
Yes.
And I literally squeed like an 8-year-old girl in a candy store. It's just going to be. I know, and I wholeheartedly believe that we are headed that way. We will see this stuff. It will come. I just really wanted them to make a really big explosion at this point, but that's clearly not their plan. I think Elite needed it, but what the hell do I know?
While I agree with you on everything that you said there, I want to change the first bit. Not 8 weeks, 4 weeks, but yes.
Okay.
in 8 weeks' time, we ought to be thinking about the beta, surely.
Yes.
It's not that far away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
Does everyone consider early 2021? If you're talking about a month, what to you is early 2021? Because to me, I'm just hearing first half. I'm hearing any time up until the end of June.
January
it could be.
15th.
It could be, but
Go ahead.
I mean, the chance is very high that they've just slipped it a month from. They were hoping to put it out before Christmas, and now it's going to be just after Christmas. But it could still slip again. There's no guarantees they'll keep to this schedule. But I think they're aiming for January at the moment.
Yeah. We've always taken it as January.
I genuinely believe.
Yeah, we've always thought it's January, but I know a lot of people think March. But I mean, none of us know really, do we?
My money says Odyssey drops January 15th.
Oh, we're making
That's
bets
very
now.
precise.
What time?
Yeah, what time of the day?
Yeah. 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
At 10:03 because the game spot it's supposed to open at 10 o'clock. Kevin's always late. Damn you, Kevin. No, I think January. Honestly, I think January 15th. Let's go around the horn. Alec, when do you think it drops? You don't have to give a day. You can give a month, whatever, or you can just say
Tuesday.
Okay, Tuesday. Beautiful. First.
January.
Okay. Rini.
Oh, sorry. What were we saying?
When it drops.
Game.
Yeah.
Yeah, January. Yeah, January. Absolutely.
Me,
Greeny.
31st of January, but the Tuesday of that week.
All right. Down to earth.
Anywhere in Q1, no idea.
Okay. Plater.
Realistically, I'm expecting end of Q1, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was any time after that either. I'm just being very, very calm and chilled about it. You're like,
Fair. Fair.
If it's earlier, brilliant. If it's later, well, it can't be later, can it? Because then it's not early anymore, is it? Not early 2021.
Fair.
Been there before.
Witherspoon.
Okay, well, the 15th of January is a Friday, so that seems pretty bloody unlikely. I would probably say Tuesday, perhaps 19th or 26th of January is probably what they're aiming for at the moment, but it could easily slip. It's too early to say for sure yet.
Sure. All right. Guys, I want to say something. I love you guys, all of you, every one of you, having you guys come together and just be these friends that have this weird, nerdy chat about this weird thing that I love. So it's super, super awesome to have the opportunity to do that. And I hope that we get together for the next Dev Diary.
For sure. Thank you very much
you.
for pulling it
Pretty sure
together.
we
Mate. Yeah.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
us.
everyone.
Enjoyed it a lot.
Not you, player.
But clearly, Witherspoon. Clearly, you love Witherspoon.
Oh,
And I
yes.
love you all. Ciao.
See you
Love
later.
you too. Bye.
Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Okay, I think we are. Let me just actually jump completely out of the Discord. There we go. That was it. Well, not quite actually, because I'm gonna be sticking around just for a few more minutes. And there's been some questions throughout the live stream, and I think Donglo, you picked up some of them. And I'm just gonna try to give my perspective on them. I can answer if I actually know the answer, but in most cases I don't. So it's gonna be my thoughts. Let me see here. We had someone ask, do you guys think we will have EVAs? So EVAs would be getting out of your ship while in space. My thoughts are no, mainly because if you look at the topics that they have announced, it's now we see in exploration. Yes, I've seen the DM, Donald, thank you. If you look at the topics they've announced, we've seen the brief look at the scanner now. There was something about like combat, and they mentioned something about mining. They mentioned something about like the social hub. It's all stuff on the surface. So I don't think we're gonna be able to get out of our ships while in space. I think this is gonna be purely a planet side thing. Sorry, what to say? Please diversify so you are not vulnerable to Patreon going bankrupt. No, I'm not. If Patreon died tomorrow, and again, YouTube is not what pays the bills. I have a full-time job next to YouTube. That's what pays the bills. YouTube is just fun and games. So just don't worry. I'm just fine. There was another question here. Let me see if we can find that. What is the likelihood of a player market where folks can craft and discover things and then sell them? Unfortunately, again, I would have to say unlikely. We kind of seen what I would consider a trial run with Tritium, and while a lot of the stuff regarding fleet carriers works quite well, and after they download mining passes or passes on mining, I'm pretty much back where we started in terms of credit income. But if you look at the player market for Tritium, it is, I would call it limited at the moment. Simply just because I don't think there's a lot of people mining Tritium with the intent to sell it. the people who are mining tritium is mining it because they want it for their fleet carrier. They don't want to spend the credit buying it. And if there's no people mining it to sell it, well, then you don't really have a player market. So I don't think we're gonna see that. Do you think we'll be able to board mega ships and other capital class vessels, or maybe even players? That's a good question. One thing that hasn't been discussed yet is walking inside stations, and whether we're gonna get that. Again, it's not even been mentioned. It's all been planet side. Maybe we're gonna get walking in stations, and they're gonna get that as a surprise announcement at some point. If we get that, then I would see Megaship being more likely, but I still think it's at least not gonna be there at launch. I mean, we have to remember that I don't think that it's just gonna be drop a patch and that's everything they're ever gonna have in the patch. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see updates down the line. We're gonna see additions. There's gonna be, I don't know if it's gonna be new ships, but maybe they're gonna add more spacesuits down the line. Something along those lines. I would agree that walking around the ships is preferred over walking around stations. So if I had to have a preferred order, I would say walking around planets would be my highest priority, because that's where there is the most potential for fun stuff to do. Next would probably be ships, and then stations, and then finally everywhere else, like installations, mega ships, those kind of things. Oh, that's a high grade. Oh, can I get there in a minute and a half? That's gonna be tight. Let me just quickly get this ship pointing in the right direction. I mean, we saw from the Polygon article where they did mention that that they were, how was, again, I forgot the wording. The wording in the Polygon article was something along the lines that they were considering walking in ships, but probably not at launch. Hold on, let me just get this right. Let me find the actual article so we can get these quotes right here. Where is it? Second here. Yeah, here we go. So developers are also considering allowing them to walk around inside starships, exploring the vessels they've owned for years for the first time. The feature won't be available at launch when Elite Odyssey comes to PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox One sometimes early 2021. So, I need to pay attention here. Need to pay attention when flying. If I have 18 seconds, that's gonna be, I don't think I'm gonna make that. I think it's gonna despawn on me because I paid attention to the article instead. And yes, again, we have to remember these articles, yes, you have to, I'm not gonna make that. You have to take those with a grain of salt, because you can't be 100% sure whether they are actually, like, sometimes they seem to iterate on some of the information sometimes. So again, I'm gonna wait until we get proper information directly from Frontier. Yes, okay, let's see. How much did I actually manage to collect in terms of materials here? Okay. When Odyssey comes out and people compare the space legs with Star Citizens, also you can also walk around Star Citizens, your ship. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it would be obviously there will be comparisons where people look at how are space legs working in Elite versus how is it working in No Man's Sky, how is it working in Star Citizens. We have only seen like the slightest small tip of the iceberg of what's gonna be in Horizons, so it's impossible to say how that's gonna end up. But so far, I'm having pretty high hopes. Anyway, I think I'm just going to take this system here. Will commanders be able to see one another's faces? I would assume so. I mean, we already have the Hollow Me where you can create your character, so I would be very surprised. I mean, if I fly up to another person's ship today, I can look inside, through his, into his cockpit, and I can see that person sitting in the chair. So I see absolutely no reason why you wouldn't be able to walk up to someone else and then see whatever face they've chosen in their Hollow Me. And in multi-crew as well, yeah. So I would be almost 100% sure that yes, we're going to be able to see each other's faces when walking around. Okay, let's see what we got in this system. Yeah, again, if we have to visit, one thing is visiting other ships, another thing is, I mean, are we going to be able to walk inside them at all? I mean, we know it's not going to come at launch, so if it's something they're going to add down the line. What do I want in planet mining? Not a whole lot, actually. I mean, I hope that it's going to be, that there's going to be a, that there's going to be some skill, like some human skill involved in it. 24 minutes, that's pretty good. So that it's not just, you know, walk up to a rock and then mindlessly point a laser at it until it explodes, and you then get some rocks. I hope there's going to be some kind of small mini game. Whether that is, I don't know, you manually have to like find shear lines on the rock to cut it right so that it opens up. I would like it to be more than just, you know, you go to a rock, some interface opens, and if there's a minigame there, that would be fine. But hopefully it would be something where you actually interact a little bit more with the stuff you mine yourself. It's where you have to learn to I don't know, spot weaknesses, or like a little bit like they've done with when you're hunting cores, where you need to learn to spot the right shape of asteroids in order for them to be crackable, or like what you have with subsurface mining, where you have to learn to like go with the trigger and look at both graphs at the same time. I think the difficulty curve they got there is pretty good, because it's something that you can easily get into without trying it before, but there's also a definite skill cap you need to learn. You need to increase your own skill. It's not just about having the best possible tool, and then you're as good as a miner as you're ever gonna be. So you actually have to learn to use those tools. I hope it's gonna be something along those lines when it comes to mining. And if they add a small amount of danger to it, it could be anything from putting rocks, high-value rocks, in inaccessible places where there's a chance you're gonna, I don't know, fall down a cliffside and die, or make them in, I don't know, not very accessible areas, so you have to walk further. You have to consider, oh, do I go back now? Can I make it back to my ship in time? Am I gonna stay here, be a little more greedy to collect more before? Like something like that adds a little bit of danger into mining on planets. That would be really nice. Will there be any persistence of changes on planets? Looking at how planets work today, I would think no. But I don't know. I think it's unlikely. Yeah, exactly, Dunker. I think I don't think we're gonna see persistence. Yeah, temperatures, like different planets has different temperatures. Maybe you could have different spacesuits that could. What are you doing, stupid limpet? Why are you just? Oh, did I open the wrong? Come on, they're right there. Oh, inventory full. Proto heat radiators. Is it all proto heat radiators? Oh, it is. Oh well. just full on proto heat radiators. But yeah, temperatures that could of course fluctuate whether you're landing on the day side or the night side of the planet. You could have different spacesuits that are rated for different temperatures or for different pressures, or maybe if you want to go to especially high gravity areas, you have to go and get some suits that are designed for that, just so that there's not just one end-all be-all suit, just like there's not just one end. I'm not gonna make that in 3 minutes. Just like there's not one end-all be-all ship in Elite. Like you have to go and pick the right ship for whatever task you're doing. There's one called Capital Ship. I'm gonna go visit that. Yeah, and this suit could be modular. It could be that you say, okay, I'm gonna go exploring, so I want to have a lot of oxygen on board. Or it could be, I'm gonna go combat, so I want to have a lot of armor. Or hey, I want the jetpack, so I'm gonna plug that in. But then you're gonna take something else away. That could be extra oxygen tanks you could have on your back instead of the jetpack. I don't know. Something like that would be really, really cool to see, I think. So that the suit could be more customizable. Do we know if there will be any favoritism towards ships better designed for atmosphere than some of the transport bricks? I don't know how they're going to do the flight models. They haven't said anything about it. I think they are going to cover that in I can't remember, was that one of the Death Diaries? But I mean, taking something like the Crate Phantomax, which we have here, this looks like a ship that would handle itself reasonably in an atmosphere. It has kind of like some wings-ish, but taking something like an Anaconda or, I don't know, any of the type ships, transport ships, I mean, they look like they would fall out of the sky like a brick. So I would hope that they're going to do it. They're going to do some flight mechanics, how ships are going to handle in the atmosphere depending on the shape. So by that, then yes, you could have some ships being better at atmospheric stuff than others. Like maybe it would actually be nice to see if you take, like right now, the Anaconda is kind of the ultimate multi-purpose ship. It can do everything relatively well. So I would actually be nice to see if, for instance, the Anaconda, it doesn't look like it has the best flight model. If that thing was just not very good at landing in atmospheric worlds because it's just a flying brick. So you would have to have a ship that would be more well designed for that. Something like that. Oh, hi Kai. Yeah, the Gutamaya ships looks like they would handle atmospheres quite well. The F4 fans proof that you can make it. Yeah, okay. Fair point. Do you know there will be any... Oh, we already read that. Are there any other questions before we just quickly go and, if I throttle up, I'm probably going to go faster, before we go and pay a visit to the capital ship? See what capital ship this is. It's an independent system, so I don't know. Is that a possibility that we are asking too much? Yes, very, very much. There is, as AstroKing says, most likely we are. I mean, this is a lot to ask. For all this different, like, having a intricate mining system and you want combat as well and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we're going to get all of it. Now I'm just saying, like, if I should design what I would consider the perfect planet-side mining system, how would that look? Well, we're going to get that, I don't know. New ships, yeah, I mean... Obviously, this is going to be a paid update, but with previous updates, especially with Beyond, Frontier did make the majority of their money by adding new ships. And when they add new ships, a lot of people want them, and when people want new ships, they're going to buy paint jobs for them. So maybe new ships, but again, I think more likely new SRVs. but again, we must be realistic and say they are going to add stuff where they can profit from, and that means stuff you can paint. But again, why wouldn't you be able to buy paint jobs for your spacesuits? I see absolutely no reason why you wouldn't be able to get that. And at Christmas, you can buy a small like Christmas hat you can put on top of your space. I don't know, something silly like that. Any chance for VR later? I doubt it. VR support is coming later. Has that been confirmed? I don't think it has. What's the largest new ship in a while? Oh, this one is actually working. Look at that, we have ourselves a functioning capital ship. Yeah, that's one right. The new one is the, I think Mamba is right. Oh, oops. These shields really need an upgrade. Oh! And my hull too. Oh, this is gonna be interesting now. Uh-oh. Nope. There we go. That's what happened when you put undersized shields on a completely unengineered ship. Well, at least that's gonna get me back. No, they just dumped me off at a random station. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I think that would be a great place to end the stream for today. I need to say a huge thank you to Venta Black for the super chat during the day. Sorry if there's been other donations during the stream. I've had my notifications disabled because we wanted some clean audio. Will we see weather systems in Odyssey? I think so, yeah. I think we saw some videos, didn't we? Hold on, I have it open here. I'm pretty sure we saw them flying around and there being rain.
A magical moment, something that's really neat to players that scale you can fly
Did I imagine that? And try that again.
And fly around. It was the first time even dangerous. You know, you're on breathe on a planet for the first, but now you.
The data now.
This is both with new rocky planets.
I could have sworn.
Back over pretty much 4 decades now. It's a massive.
I know there's no sound that's on purpose. Thanks a lot for the follow on Twitch. Let's just quickly see this.
And fly around the Milky Way, and that Milky Way is a fantastic technical achievement.
Hold on.
Pilot, where you get game in its 4 decades now. It's a massively multiplayer game in its current iteration, where you get to become a space pilot and fly around the Milky Way, and that Milky Way is
Am I the only one a little puzzled about this clip here?
and fly.
What is the Mamba doing? He is now... I mean, okay. He is at the point now where he's locked onto the system and the countdown is going down. But he's clearly turning. I don't... That's not a thing.
Become a space pilot and fly around.
What? Miss jump? Or is he just going directly to Super Cruise? No, then he wouldn't have the... Would he still have the timer? Interdiction? No, we have the HUD up, so we would see the interdiction. Hold on, let me just... So if I go directly to Super Cruise... Oh, mass locked, of course. Come on. So I can control the ship. See, and now, no control doing the actual timer. And now I have control again. I thought so, but clearly here, that ship is turning doing that load up sequence. 2 minutes and 9 seconds, okay. 2 minutes and 9 seconds.
Absolutely incredible.
Well, it's heavy in ice. We'll end up with ice world specific formations. You'll end up with Linnae, palimpsest.
I thought...
You'll end up with Linnae, palimpsest. Cryovolcanism. Worlds.
I thought I saw some shots with like water running off the windscreen or windshield or something like that.
The rocky planets have been upgraded to the point where now even the distant view looks so different. You're getting details that were never there before.
Another exciting element.
This is not a YouTube video. This is a local one played in.
Light atmosphere affords are some more vegetation, some more flora.
The flora that we're producing, we've been really interested in making sure that they feel like.
Not close up. I'm for sure I've seen that somewhere, but okay. Maybe that's just me, or maybe I'm referring or recalling from the stuff people have been doing in Unreal Engine. Okay, so I think just gonna check if I forgot anything else before I begin to call the stream. Nope. Okay. So I am going to call the stream for today. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. Wow, look at that flicker. We just fixed that real quick. There we go. I had the sunlight bouncing off a shelf and then in through the fan, so it looked like all flickery. Okay, so that's gonna be it for today's live stream. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course there will be many more of these roundtable kind of live streams as new information is released. I can't tell you when they're gonna be, simply because I don't know, because we're only going to do them when there's actually something to talk about, so it's not just empty air. So that will be whenever Frontier releases something new for us to talk about. The next scheduled live stream is on Tuesday at my usual time spot at 7 o'clock in-game time. That is 7 o'clock GMT. And of course it will be live streamed here on YouTube and on Twitch. And on Tuesday, it's going to be one of those I build your ships kind of live streams. I've already received a lot of good ideas for like random, weird, funny ship builds that we can try. And I'll be trying to make some of them during the live stream, just on Coriolis, not actually in game because we don't have time for that. So we're just going to quickly build them on Coriolis just to see what we can come up with. It's usually a ton of fun. And you can still send in submissions if you have a good idea for a weird or odd ship build you want me to try and do, and see how I would approach, or if you have an existing build and you want me to try and look at it and see if I can make any improvements to it. But that is gonna be it for today. You will see a whole host of links in the chat. There will both be links for Patreon if you want to support the channel on a monthly basis. Also for Streamlabs, where you can find where you can do one-time donations, and as always, all donations both from Patreon and one-time, they go 100% towards buying new equipment and upgrades. That's gonna make me allow me to do more and better looking videos. Patrons, of course, also get a discount in the merch store, which you will also find a link for, where you can buy t-shirts. Not like this one. This was a limited edition one, but there are other t-shirts. There are mugs, hoodies, all that kind of good stuff. And finally, the most important thing, of course, is for is for Discord, for the channel's community. You can also join the channel's player faction. We are currently having some of the most interesting times in our faction at the moment. There's really a lot going on, and I think we are on the brink of a very big milestone for the faction that's really been coming along very nicely. So I hope I will see you guys on Discord, if nothing else than just for a chat. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.